Chapter 12. It's actually Tang Xiaoxi. Heavens. On the side, second senior brother Zhao Xian's face was flushed red as he stared at the beautiful girl from afar, seemingly unable to control himself. Lin Muyu was stunned. Tang Xiaoxi? Who's that? Zhao Xian glanced at him disdainfully. You don't even know who Tang Xiaoxi is? She's ranked second among the top 10 beauties of Lanyan City. How can you not know her? Top 10 beauties. Lin Muyu seemed to understand something. So there was a ranking like this in this world. Zhao Xian stared at her from afar with an infatuated look on her face. She said, Tang Xiaoxi's beauty is truly unparalleled in Cathaya City. This was something Lin Muyu had to admit. Tang Xiaoxi was indeed a heavenly beauty, and a very intelligent girl at that. Even Chu Yao beside her paled in comparison. Everyone's lowering their heads. Chu Feng shouted in a low voice. You stinky brats, stop looking. Anyone who blasphemes Princess Xi's looks is a crime punishable by death. Everyone lowered their heads. Tang Xiaoxi was only 2 meters away from them, and all they could see was a pair of small boots and an absolute domain of about 20 centimeters between the boots and her skirt. Her skin was as fair as ice, and her bones were as white as snow. Lin Muyu felt dizzy just by looking at her. I can't take it anymore, she's just too mesmerizing. Tang Xiaoxi walked in front, followed closely by an old man in white robes and light armor. He looked to be about 60 years old, and his face was full of vicissitudes of life. However, his expression was reserved, and it was obvious that he was an expert. He pressed his hand on his sword as he followed closely behind Tang Xiaoxi. Hua Tian cupped his fists towards him and smiled. Chu, it's been a long time. The old man smiled as well. City Governor Hua Tian has governed Silver Fir City well. The fact that the imperial monarch has sent Princess Xi to inspect the city is a testament to his trust in you. In fact, I should say that we share the same joy. Hua Tian grinned from ear to ear. This way please, Chu. The assembly is about to begin. Just as this Chu walked through the crowd, his bright eyes suddenly fell on Chu Feng. He immediately stood still, cupped his fists, and greeted with a smile, old friend, how come you don't recognize me? Chu Feng also laughed. Chu, what are you talking about? I'm afraid that you don't know this old man. The other party bowed again and said, the conference is about to begin. Let's talk after the conference is over. I still want to discuss the replenishment of medicinal essence with you. Alright, this old man will host a banquet in my humble abode to welcome you. Alright, let's drink till we're drunk. After he left, Lin Muyu asked, Grandpa, who is this person? What a strong aura. He must be very strong, right? Chu Feng said in a low voice, Chu, a level 94 Saint Realm expert. Naturally, he's very strong. So he's Chu, one of the white-robed royal guards. Zhao Xian's jaw dropped. I heard that he's a poor commoner with no financial group to support him. To think that he's able to cultivate to this level. This is too shocking. There are only a few Saint Realm experts in the entire empire. This Chu can be counted on one hand. Chu Feng looked at Lin Muyu with an expression of infinite regret. He said, you, originally. I thought that your martial arts cultivation could improve further. I would have asked Chu to guide you in your cultivation. But it's a pity that you have a heaven-crippled physique. Sigh. A long sigh meant that the old man's hope was once again dashed. Chu Feng had always thought that although this granddaughter of his, Chu Yao, was talented and intelligent, she was still a woman. No matter how hard she cultivated, she would never be able to reach the realm of a man. That was why he had placed his hopes on Lin Muyu. However, he didn't expect that Lin Muyu's physique would not be able to practice martial arts. Chu Yao also comforted him, it's all right. Train hard and you'll eventually break through. I don't believe in heresy. Lin Muyu smiled faintly, yes, I know. Although he didn't say it on the surface, he had suffered quite a big blow in his heart. However, Lin Muyu's pride was ingrained in her bones. She would never admit defeat. He never believed that a heaven-crippled physique could not practice martial arts. As long as one was willing to work hard, there was nothing in this world that was impossible, wasn't it? Under the announcement of an official, the medicine ceremony officially began. Every medicine shop had a small booth. In reality, it was just a small table. The medicines were placed on top of the table, waiting for the officials to appraise them. Ping Nan Medicine Shop, Level 4 Healing Medicine, Grade 6. Jianghu Medicine Shop, Level 4 Stone Skin Medicine, Grade 5. Sky Azure Medicine Shop, Level 5 Divine Healing Medicine, Grade 4. Finally, they stopped at the stall of the Divine Feather Medicine Shop. That was the medicine shop of the young governor. The appraiser bowed and appraised the medicine. Then, he shouted loudly, Divine Feather Medicine Shop, Level 5 Divine Healing Medicine, Grade 2. Level 6 Forceful Medicine, Grade 4. Level 7 Sleeping Medicine, Grade 4. This was probably the highest level and the highest quality medicine present at the scene. In an instant, there were many congratulations. Even Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. Governor Hua Tian actually made a level 7 medicine of grade 4. Congratulations. I'm afraid that in a few years, Governor Hua Tian will be promoted to a king of medicine. Hua Tian smiled humbly, of course not. I only made a level 7 medicine of grade 4 by chance. At this time, the appraiser continued to inspect the medicine table by table. Finally, one of them came to the side of the 100 Spirits Medicine Shop's table and tested it with a glass rod. A look of shock immediately flashed across his face. Then, he tested Lin Muyu's stone skin medicine. The look of shock on his face became even more intense as he shouted, 100 Spirits Medicine Shop, Level 5 Divine Strength Medicine, Grade 3. Level 4 Stone Skin Medicine, Grade 1. What? Chu Chu suddenly sat up from his chair, his eyes shining brightly. Who can actually make a level 4 medicine of grade 1? Tang Xiaoxi couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and rushed down the stage, heading straight for Lin Muyu's table. Chu Chu hurriedly followed by a few fully armed guards. Princess Shi, slow down. Chu Chu shouted. Tang Xiaoxi's speed was very fast, so fast that it was shocking. She arrived in front of the 100 Spirits Medicine Shop's table in 2 strides. Holding the bottle of stone skin medicine, she said, Grade 1 stone skin medicine, it's too rare. Chu Chu said, yes, but princess, you're too rash. If something happens, how am I going to explain it to your grandfather? I promised you that I would protect you. Tang Xiaoxi's attention was completely on the stone skin medicine. She raised her head and looked at Lin Muyu with her starry eyes, asking, this stone skin medicine was made by you? Lin Muyu was a little flustered by her gaze and nodded, yes, the corners of Tang Xiaoxi's mouth curled up into a smile that was as bright as a little white flower. She said, you don't look that old, yet you're able to refine a first-grade medicine. How amazing! Can I try this stone skin medicine? Sure. Lin Muyu didn't dare to resist. There were several fiendish guards staring at her from behind, and each one of them should be 100 times stronger than Hawkeye. She didn't want to die yet. Tang Xiaoxi poured a portion of the medicine on her wrist. After a few seconds, the medicine took effect, and her defense increased dramatically. She patted her wrist. Oh, I really don't feel anything. Her right palm opened slightly, and a raging flame slowly rose. An illusory fire fox circled around her arm. It was her martial soul. This young girl actually had a high-grade martial soul. She punched her left wrist that was in the state of stone skin. Pung! She gritted her teeth, enduring the pain, and smiled, so powerful. It's just a little pain. If I use this stone skin medicine to soak in it, will I be invulnerable? Lin Muyu was embarrassed, and looked at her chest. She thought that it would be a pity if she soaked in it, but she didn't dare to say it out loud, and only said, Princess, the effect of the medicine depends on the person's physique. The stronger the person, the longer the effect, but there must be a time limit. So it's like this. Tang Xiaoxi was a little disappointed, and pouted, saying, "Grandfather always blames me for hurting myself when I cultivate. I thought this first-grade stone skin medicine could save me. Hee, but it's fine, I'll test its defense again." Saying this, she reached out and pulled out the guard sword, and lightly cut her left wrist. Ah, her delicate eyebrows slightly wrinkled. "It's bleeding." Lin Muyu wanted to die. "Princess, you," Chu hurriedly said. "Princess, quickly return to your seat, this isn't a place you should be." After Tang Xiaoxi, Chu, and the others walked onto the stage, Lin Muyu looked to the front, and saw Hua Wan shooting a murderous glare at her. "It's over, I seem to have stolen the limelight from the young city lord." After nearly 2 hours, the appraisal was finally over. Hua Tian said, "Princess Shi, who do you think should be in the top 3? Tang Xiaoxi smiled. "That first-grade stone skin medicine is more interesting, and that person is called Lin Muyu, right? I think he should be in first place, what do you think?" Hua Tian naturally didn't want to think so, but he still cupped his fists and said, "Princess Shi is the special envoy. In that case, let the 100 Spirits medicine shop be in first place in this year's medicine ceremony." "All right." Just like that, Hua Tian stood up, gathered his true energy, and announced in a loud and clear voice, "His Majesty has sent Princess Shi to Silver First City as a special envoy, bringing light to our humble Silver First City. Today's results are out. Lin Muyu of 100 Spirits Medicine Shop is in first place, Hua Wan of Divine Feather Medicine Shop is in second place, and Lu Gu of Sky Blue Medicine Shop is in third place." Saying this, Hua Tian smiled and said, "This year's subsidies are as follows. Special approval. The 100 Spirits Medicine Shop will receive 100 Jin coins as operating funds, and the medicines it produces can be auctioned publicly. Also, this year's special pardon will be won by the best of the younger generation through a martial arts competition." Wonderful. Zhao Xian, Luo Kai, and the others were overjoyed. Lin Muyu was silent. This wasn't actually a good thing. Chapter 13. "Grandpa, what's a special pardon order?" Lin Muyu asked. Chu Feng's face was flushed red as he said, "The pardon medallion is a true treasure. The Imperial Spirit Medicine Department has issued a total of 10 such medallions, but there's only one in all of Cathaya City. Anyone with this medallion will be able to enjoy at least a 50% discount in any medicine store, and they'll also be treated respectfully even in the Spirit Medicine Department. Of course, only the cream of the crop in the alchemy world can obtain this medallion." On the side, Chu Yao's face was a bit displeased. Unfortunately, the rules of Cathaya City state that only the cream of the crop under the age of 30 can win a special pardon order through a martial arts competition. It's called martial arts and medicine at the same time, but among the young alchemists of Cathaya City, Hua Wan's cultivation is the highest. He's a level 29 battle spirit. This is something no one else can compare to. Lin Muyu was startled. "Sister Chu Yao, what are your chances of winning against him with your level 20 battle spirit?" Chu Yao gritted her teeth. "My martial spirit is nowhere near as strong as his, and the mayor of Cathaya City has invited many extraordinary experts to teach him combat techniques. I've never learned any combat techniques in my life, never learned, why?" Beside him, Chu Feng sighed and said, "It's all my fault as a useless grandfather. Battle techniques and martial arts books are too expensive. A good one costs at least 10 Jin coins. But how can our 100 Spirits Medicine Hall afford so much money? Furthermore, Yao is a girl. I don't plan to let her have any achievements in martial arts." Luo Kai looked at Cathaya on the stage, his eyes filled with indignation. He clenched his fists and said, "No matter what, we have to give it a try. If 100 Spirits Apothecary can get the special pardon order, then we'll truly be able to make a comeback." Chu Feng was silent. In the evening, 100 Spirits Apothecary welcomed an honored guest. White-robed Chu arrived and was welcomed into the living room by Grandpa Chu Feng. Behind him was an even more illustrious guest. That graceful young lady had also arrived. The legendary second beauty of the empire, Tang Xiaoxi. She was only 19 years old, but she was already a peerless beauty. A group of disciples were picking up herbs. Lin Muyu was among them. Chu Yao had gone to make tea. Luo Kai's childish eyes looked towards the living room. He stuck out his tongue and smiled. Senior brother, is that Chu Chu? The legendary white-robed Chu Chu? He looks like an old man. He's not as powerful as the rumors say. Zhao Xian immediately raised her hand and smacked Luo Kai's forehead. She laughed and said, "Little brat, don't make irresponsible remarks. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, who doesn't know about him? Moreover, his current status is extremely noble. Only a few people in the entire empire can wear the white robe to protect the emperor's safety. Why is it called Fire Cauldron Chu Chu?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. That's because his martial soul is called the Fire Cauldron, a third-grade martial soul. It's said that he once defeated 2 Saint Realm experts with this Fire Cauldron. As Wang Ying spoke, he sneered at Lin Muyu and said, You have a heaven's handicap body, you can't practice martial arts. Don't even think about it. Not to mention, a body like yours is no different from trash, you can't possibly have a martial spirit, right?" He couldn't hide the disdain in his eyes. Lin Muyu didn't care and continued to pick up the herbs. In the living room, Chu Feng served a cup of tea and said with a smile, "Elder Chu, have a taste of this clear dew tea. It's a type of medicinal tea that's fragrant and refreshing. The tea is brewed with dew. Princess Shi, why don't you have a taste as well?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled and took a sip. She stuck out her tongue and said, "I don't really know how to taste tea. Grandpa always spends a lot of time brewing tea, but the tea is too bitter." Chu Chu couldn't help but smile with a doting expression. "Humph, that's because you don't know how to taste tea. How can an ordinary person have the chance to taste Duke Zhonglan's tea?" As he spoke, Chu Chu took a sip and couldn't help but praise, "Good tea. It's indeed fragrant and refreshing. Oh right, this must be Chu Yao. I didn't expect you to grow so big in the blink of an eye. The last time I came to Silver Fir City, you were still a baby." Chu Yao chuckled. Chu and Grandpa were friends for 20 years. I was naturally too young back then. Chu Chu laughed and asked, "Brother Chu, how have you been all these years? You're still a great apothecary, but you seem to be so poor. It must have been hard on you." Chu Feng laughed awkwardly. "Sigh, this old man only knows how to pick tea in the mountains and collect dew at dusk. My body is weak and I can't pick many high-grade medicinal herbs myself. I can't afford to buy them either, so I can only stay where I am. Today, that disciple of yours called Lin Muyu, was he really the one who refined the first-grade medicine?" "Yes, Yu is a natural genius." "It's a pity." "What's a pity?" Chu Chu was stunned. Chu Feng said, "It's a pity that his talent is not bad. It's just that his body is a crippled physique. His meridians are naturally blocked and he can't circulate his true qi. That's why the Saint Hall Master said he can't practice martial arts at all." "Is that so?" Chu Chu looked at the group of disciples picking herbs outside the door and couldn't help but laugh. "I don't think so." Chu Feng immediately stood up and bowed to Chu Chu. "Brother Chu, what are you doing?" Chu Chu also stood up and asked reproachfully. Chu Feng sighed and said, "Chu, to tell you the truth, I'm already over 70 years old. It's fine for me to suffer a bit of humiliation, but Yao and you shouldn't have their lives ruined by the hands of vile people. I've invited Chu Chu here for this matter. I hope that you can accept Yao and you as your disciples." This. Chu Chu had an awkward expression. This time, I've been entrusted by Duke Zhonglan to protect Princess Shi. Our next destination is the imperial capital, Lanyan City. I'm afraid we won't be able to stay in Silver Fir City for too long. I can give the 2 children some pointers, but if it's accepting disciples, I'm afraid Tang Xiaoxi seemed to have understood something. She smiled and said, "Grandpa Chu Chu, you've never accepted a disciple in your entire life. Could it be that you want to lose your chastity in your old age?" Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Princess Shi, you're laughing at me. He looked at Lin Muyu from afar. He could vaguely see the shadow of his younger self in this youth. In truth, Chu Chu was indeed tempted. Lin Muyu was able to refine a grade 1 stone skin medicine at such a young age, so he must be extraordinary. Moreover, it was said that he had a crippled physique. This made Chu Chu even more interested. He had been challenging his entire life, and this time, he really wanted to see if a person with a crippled physique could become the next expert. Right at this moment, a commotion suddenly came from outside the door. Immediately after, the door was kicked open, and a group of armored people walked in. The person in the lead was dressed in luxurious clothing. It was the young city lord, Hua Wan. 100 Spirits Medicine Hall Master Chu Feng, come out to receive your reward. Chu Feng hurriedly went out to welcome them. Tang Xiaoxi also wanted to go out, but she was stopped by Chu Chu. He wanted to see what would happen. Young city lord. Chu Feng bowed respectfully. Hua Wan took a heavy bag of money from the hands of his henchmen behind him. He smiled and said, "This is 100 Jinin coins. It's the reward that your 100 Spirits Medicine Hall has received. Congratulations," but, he took out a black token from his waist and said with a smile, "But I reckon that this special pardon will still belong to me, Hua Wan, this year. After all, the young disciples of your 100 Spirits Medicine Hall are all a bunch of trash. Not a single one of them is presentable." "What did you say?" Zhao Xian was more impulsive. He shouted in a low voice, "Hua Wan, watch your words." Hua Wan sneered. Suddenly, he threw the bag of money on the ground. He crossed his fists, and streams of vital energy condensed into a soul armor around his body. He smiled and said, "Why? Do you want to experience my abilities? That's good too. Today, I'll beat all of you trash to the ground. That way, I won't have to see your disgusting faces in the arena 3 days later." Zhao Xian said angrily, "1-on-1. Do you dare?" "Why not?" Hua Wan shouted to the group of subordinates behind him, "Listen up. No one is allowed to make a move. Even if I kill or cripple them, you are not allowed to help." The group of martial artists cupped their fists and said, "Yes, young city lord." Hua Wan had already set up his battle formation. He stood with his feet drawn in a circle. He indeed had the demeanor of a master. Moreover, he did not even use any weapons. He just stood there with his bare hands. He smiled provocatively and said, "Trash, come on." Zhao Xian roared. He pulled out an iron sword from the side and rushed out. There were 2 layers of chi waves condensed from vital energy on the sword's blade. The power was at level 15 of the 2nd level of the human realm. This surprised Hua Wan, but he was even more certain that this person was definitely not his opponent. The difference in strength was too great. Just at the moment when Zhao Xian's iron sword was about to touch Hua Wan suddenly dodged. His speed was far faster than his opponent's. He turned sideways and gave a vicious kick. Crack! With a crisp sound, Zhao Xian knelt on the ground and howled miserably. The bone in his calf had been broken just like that. Young city lord. Chu Feng was furious. He shouted in a low voice, "What do you mean by this? You're so vicious. Are you trying to kill someone?" Hua Wan raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Old man, if I really wanted to kill someone, I would have kicked him in the back of his head. It was your disciple who provoked me first. Shut up." As he spoke, he looked at the group of disciples from the 100 Spirits Medicine store arrogantly and asked, "Who else?" Wang Ying gritted his teeth but did not speak. He was only at level 17 of the 2nd level of the human realm. He was not Hua Wan's opponent at all. If he went up, he would probably end up the same as Zhao Xian. At this moment, Lin Muyu walked out slowly. She looked at Hua Wan coldly and said with a faint smile, "You came for me. Why do you have to hurt the innocent?" "I'm happy to." "What's wrong?" "I hurt you bunch of trash and even dirted my hands. What do you think? Are you not satisfied? As he spoke, Hua Wan's face was filled with a sarcastic smile. Lin Muyu, I just heard that you went to the Saint Hall and was confirmed to have a deity-damaged body. Huh, you're really trash. Even if you can refine medicine, so what? Trash will always be trash. You'll never be able to enter the Hall of Elegance. Lin Muyu did not speak. He took a step forward and performed the signature move of the falling star step. Then, he raised his right palm. Although he had no cultivation, he gave off the feeling of a master. He looked at Hua Wan indifferently and said, "Come on." Almost everyone thought that Lin Muyu had gone crazy. He was level 0 while his opponent was level 29. Chapter 14. You. Chu Yao opened her mouth, her face full of worry. You have to be careful, in a corner of the living room. Tang Xiaoxi stretched her neck and watched the fight through the gap of the window. She raised her round but high and said happily, "Wow, the alchemist named Lin Muyu is going to fight with Hua Wan. Grandpa Chu Chu, who do you think will win?" Chu Chu cupped his fists and did not even look at them. He raised his head and closed his eyes. In fact, he could see through the actions of the people outside. He smiled faintly and said, "Hua Wan is full of arrogance, while Lin Muyu is full of pride. Hua Wan's strength is not weak, while Lin Muyu's body does not emit any battle aura. If I must say, Lin Muyu has won in terms of aura, but in terms of battle, he will definitely lose." Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said nothing. Hua. This time, Hua Wan took the initiative to attack. He punched out fiercely, and the wind around the fist was wrapped with burning sharpness, which shocked everyone. If this punch hit his opponent, he would be crippled even if he didn't die. However, to everyone's surprise, the punch missed. That's right, Hua Wan, who was at the peak of the 3rd level of the human realm, didn't hit Lin Muyu. In fact, no one even saw how Lin Muyu dodged the attack. All they saw was a flash before their eyes as Lin Muyu landed firmly on the side of her original position like a meteor falling to the ground. What? Hua Wan's punch missed, and his face was full of doubt. Then he became angry from embarrassment and turned around to punch again. Lin Muyu hurriedly bent her back and instantly formed a metal bridge. She managed to avoid the second attack and flipped her body to the side. At the same time, she gave Hua Wan a heavy kick on her ankle. Bang! True Qi surged, and Hua Wan staggered. Lin Muyu felt a piercing pain in her feet. In terms of speed, Hua Wan was not as fast as her, but in terms of physical strength, she was far inferior. In fact, the 3 realms of the human realm were all about tempering the body. The first realm was skin tempering, the second realm was body tempering, and the third realm was bone tempering. Hua Wan had reached level 29 and had reached the peak of bone tempering. Her body had been tempered from the inside to the outside. How could she be afraid of Lin Muyu's attack? This was the difference in strength. It could even be said that Lin Muyu's attack could not break through his defense at all. Hey! Hua Wan also understood this. She suddenly shouted in a low voice, "Are you done playing?" Hua Wan's body shook, and his power surged. A big hammer flickering with lightning appeared in his hand. Thunder hammer. Chu Feng was shocked. Chu Yao was on the verge of tears. She shouted, "Hua Wan, you're shameless. How can you use your martial spirit against someone who doesn't have a martial spirit? You're too shameless. Stop." Hua Wan couldn't care less. He wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Muyu right here and now. That way, no one in Cathaya City would be able to compete with him for the title of the #1 alchemist of the younger generation. Buzz. Hua Wan's murderous intent did not stop. Although it was a bare-handed attack, his martial spirit carried a strong electric current as it blasted out. Lin Muyu hurriedly used fallen star steps to dodge, but she was still a bit slower and was still hit in the back. She immediately felt a burning sensation and numbness all over her body. This thunder hammer was indeed powerful. With a wrong step, Lin Muyu silently picked up a withered short stick. It was a branch of an iron pear flower. Although its medicinal essence had been extracted, it was still very sturdy. There were some needles on it, but one thing was for sure, the iron layer of the flower had been peeled off, so it would not conduct electricity. Pung! There was no way to dodge. Hua Wan's fist filled with murderous intent slammed into the branch of the iron pear flower. An enormous force surged forth, and Lin Muyu only felt a sweet taste in her chest. Ah! A mouthful of blood rushed up her throat, but she was unwilling to give up and forcefully swallowed it back down. She spun her feet, activating fallen star steps. Her body magically hovered in the air for nearly a second, then she turned around and whipped the branch of the iron pear flower onto Hua Wan's face. Pa! Hua Wan's face burned with pain. He reached out to touch it and found that it was bleeding. The needles on the iron pear flower were too sharp. Even a peak third-level mortal realm expert like him had been wounded. Although it was only a scratch, it was still the greatest humiliation of his life. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. To think that a handsome man like me would be disfigured by a piece of trash today. I'll kill you. Hua Wan roared and spun his body. His thunder hammer brought with it waves of flames as it smashed towards Lin Muyu. This time, not only did he use his martial soul, but he also used his combat skills. It's crisscrossing raging flames. Luo Kai was shocked. He used his combat skills. Brother Yu, be careful. Hua Wan's attack was too powerful. Even the fallen star steps couldn't avoid it. Moreover, Lin Muyu didn't want to avoid it. If he kept running, he would never have a chance of winning. He lowered his feet and pushed himself up from the ground. He raised the iron pear flower horizontally to block his opponent's attack. With a loud sound, his clothes were torn into pieces, and the wound that hadn't completely healed started bleeding again. Hua Wan's martial soul's attack directly made him fall back. However, before Hua Wan could be proud of himself, he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his left cheek. Pa! The moment Lin Muyu fell back, he pulled out his sword again. If it wasn't the iron pear flower in his hand, but a fine steel sword, Hua Wan would probably be dead by now. Motherf asterisk Ker, you bastard. I'm going to kill you. Hua Wan rushed forward angrily. He raised his thunder hammer high and was ready to strike. Stop. At this time, Chu Chu finally walked out. He shouted and stood in front of Lin Muyu. But what kind of person was Hua Wan? He had lived like a prince since he was young. When had he ever been humiliated like this? This attack was directly thrown down. At this time, he didn't care who was in front of him. Even if it was the emperor, he would kill them first. Humph. A trace of anger flashed past Chu Chu's eyes. He didn't move. Suddenly, there was a hua hua sound of wind. It was the wind of raging flames. In the next moment, a huge transparent cauldron emerged from the ground and wrapped around his body. This was his martial soul. The legend of the fire cauldron Chu Chu also came from this. Pung! Lightning scattered. Hua Wan's martial soul had already collapsed the moment it came into contact with the cauldron. The difference in strength was too great. Even his body was sent flying by the cauldron like a kite with a broken string. Falling heavily to the ground, Hua Wan spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked up at Chu Chu and shouted, Chu, why are you helping this brat? What is the meaning of this? Chu Chu said indifferently, Lin Muyu is the disciple of Chu Chu, the ancient Chu Feng. I won't watch you kill her. Young city lord, leave some leeway. If you really want to kill Lin Muyu, then come at me. If your father Hua Tian doesn't want to be the city lord, I only need to say a word and His Majesty will be able to remove the city lord of a small silver fir city as easily as crushing an ant. Only then did Hua Wan realize the severity of the situation. Then, he saw Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful figure walk out of the living room. His face immediately turned pale and he stood up with the help of his subordinates. He cupped his fists and said, My apologies, Chu. I was just sparring with Lin Muyu and didn't hold back. I hope Chu can forgive me. Chu Chu also smiled. It's normal for young people to be brave and fierce. If young city lord must fight with Lin Muyu, then why don't you wait for another 3 days? If you really want to kill him, then it'll be easy. That is, if you can kill him. Hua Wan angrily left with a group of guards from the city lord's mansion. Lin Muyu stood up awkwardly from the corner and said, Chu, what do you mean by waiting for another 3 days? Chu Chu smiled and said, Princess, she has already cultivated to the realm of a level 29 battle spirit. I plan to bring her into the depths of the 7 Stars forest to train and find a suitable beast spirit for her to break through to level 30. If you don't mind, I'll bring you along and guide your cultivation along the way. What do you think? Chu Feng was overjoyed. Why aren't you nodding? Lin Muyu immediately nodded. Thank you, Chu. Chu Yao looked at Tang Xiaoxi, who was beside her. This girl was only 19 years old, 6 years younger than her, but she had already cultivated to level 29. What would happen in another 6 years? Moreover, she was so beautiful. At such a young age, she already had a full chest and a slender waist. With such a girl around, people simply didn't want to live anymore. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, looked at Lin Muyu with delight. She felt that if this silly boy entered the 7 Stars forest with her, at least the journey wouldn't be too boring. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu was a rather cold and arrogant person. He usually didn't say a word or would only look after himself. With Lin Muyu accompanying him, he could at least make him refine a medicine for him to play with along the way. At the very least, he could make him perform a trick for him to play with. Of course, this heartless fellow didn't openly express his thoughts. Chu Chu's thoughts were even simpler. Lin Muyu was a moldable talent. Be it her temperament or character, they were all to his liking. Moreover, this brat seemed to have a unique understanding of alchemy. He, on the other hand, was a rookie who was extremely interested in alchemy. In any case, he might be able to make some progress in alchemy during the 3 days of cultivation. Lin Muyu's thoughts were even simpler. This Chu Chu's fire cauldron had beaten Hua Wan into a sorry state with just one move. This old fellow was simply too powerful. Training with him would only bring benefits and no harm. I must become stronger. Become stronger. I must become the most powerful person in this world. Only I can bully others, no one else can bully me. In the future, I'll be bullying people like Hua Wan for fun. This is a truly free life. At night, after dinner, Chu Yao prepared Lin Muyu's luggage. It was very simple. A set of clothes and some dry food. In addition, she also brought Lin Muyu's steel sword and longbow. After all, the 7 Stars forest was a place without humanity. It was always good to have weapons in hand. Before leaving, Chu Chu gave Chu Yao some pointers in a hurry. He gave her a set of silver needles, an atlas of 1,000 transformation, and a medical book. Chu Yao looked at the set of silver needles and was very confused. Grandpa Chu Chu, are these needles used to sew clothes? Chu Chu shook his head. No, silver needles are used to pierce acupuncture points to save people. Of course, if you practice the silver needle technique to the extreme, it can also be used as a hidden weapon to kill people. Tonight, I'll teach you the technique of throwing needles. Practice it well. Then, look at the atlas and medical book. You can save people, but you can also injure them. You have to know your limits. Thank you, Grandpa. Chu Yao was very happy. Chapter 15. It's 5 in the morning. Lin Muyu, get up and set off. In his dreams, Chu Chu forcefully knocked on the door. Lin Muyu suddenly woke up and looked out the window. The starry sky was still there. It was at most 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Although he didn't know why he left in such a hurry, Lin Muyu still obeyed and jumped out of bed. He quickly put on his clothes and went out. He craved great power, and Chu Chu was someone who could bring him great power. Teacher, it's not even dark yet, why are you leaving? I'm going to greet Grandpa and Sister Chu Yao before I leave. Don't greet them, let's go. In the dark, Chu Chu was dressed in a white robe and said with an unquestionable tone, "A day's work is in the morning. How long do you want to sleep? You can come back after 3 days and sleep as much as you want. Moreover, I'm not your teacher, I'm only teaching you for 3 days. I, Chu Chu, will never accept a disciple in my life. You can just call me Chu, how about it?" And Lin Muyu followed him out of the courtyard. On the side, Tang Xiaoxi, the noble princess, also followed. She held a thin sword in her hand and led 2 horses. She handed one of the reins to Lin Muyu and said, "This horse is yours." "Oh. It's a good grassland horse. You've lucked out." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. Lin Muyu turned around and looked at the horse. It was indeed not bad. Its body was sturdy, its hair was smooth, and its eyes were full of spirit. With one look, one could tell that it was a fine horse. He looked at Tang Xiaoxi's horse. Her mount was a small horse with fiery red hair. Its figure matched her petite figure. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to see through his thoughts and couldn't help but laugh. "You think my 1,000-mile flame is weak? Do you want to give it a try? I guarantee that you won't be able to see my back in the time it takes to burn a stick of incense." Lin Muyu was speechless, but she did not challenge the princess. So this fiery red pony was called Xian Li Hua. The name was very appropriate, but whether it could travel 1,000 miles in a day was unknown. At the very front, Chu Chu was leading a sturdy black horse. The hooves of the horse were hammered with horseshoes, and there was a purple flower emblem on the horse's butt. That was a war horse. "We'll leave Kathia City before dawn. I heard that there's a bun shop in the south of the city. We'll leave after we're done eating," Chu Chu said. "Yes." Lin Muyu listened carefully. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, said with a smile, "Chu, is there anything better than the imperial capital's beef buns?" Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. "Princess, you must be joking. The imperial capital's flour slices beef is the best in the world. Even His Majesty has personally tasted it. No one can beat it." "That's right." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips and said with a smile, "The moment we talk about good food in the capital, I suddenly miss Shao Yin." Chu Chu said, "After we cultivate in the 7 Stars Forest for 3 days and help Princess Shi rise to rank 30, we can naturally return to the capital to see His Highness." Amen. By the time they left the city, the sky was still dark. It was only the eastern sky that was beginning to brighten. Chu Chu kept his word and found a bun shop in the forest outside the city. This place was close to the 7 Stars Forest, and wild beasts would occasionally appear. Therefore, this bun shop was set up here to provide food and lodging for the traveling merchants and passers-by. The sky was still dark, but the staff were already busy steaming buns. "Waiter, 1 bun per person and 3 days' worth of food for the 3 of us," Chu Chu said straightforwardly. The staff was quite efficient. Very soon, the buns were served, and they were filled with meat. The last time they had meat was 3 days ago, so Lin Muyu naturally ate heartily. She ate an entire steamer of buns like a tornado, and Tang Xiaoxi was dumbfounded. "Wow, Mu, you're really reborn." "Ah. What's reborn?" Lin Muyu was confused. She didn't know why this young princess would call her Mu. It was a very strange feeling. Moreover, Lin Muyu felt that Tang Xiaoxi was more of a friendly feeling, and not the arrogance of a noble girl. If Tang Xiaoxi was from a noble family, she would have already ordered Lin Muyu around like a servant, and wouldn't even be willing to talk to her. Chu Chu smiled and said, "Legend has it that it was a strange beast in ancient times. It was gluttonous and very strong, but because it ate too much, it couldn't run anymore. Therefore, it was hunted down by the Radiant King, and its fur was made into a king's robe." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and stuck out her tongue, and continued to eat. After eating, Chu Chu placed all the packed food and water into the luggage beside Lin Muyu's mount, and said, "Let's set off before the sun rises." "Chu, why are we in such a hurry?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but ask. Chu Chu smiled. "Because, at sunrise today, it will be a very difficult time for you. Why? An hour after sunrise, I want to awaken the martial soul that's sleeping in the depths of your heart. Chu Chu's eyes flashed, and he said confidently, if a cultivator doesn't even awaken their martial soul, then they're no different from trash. I awakened my martial soul at the age of 14, and Princess She awakened the martial soul passed down in her family at the age of 9. What's the martial soul passed down in your family? That's right, I almost forgot that a rookie like you doesn't understand anything. Chu Chu took a deep breath and explained, the strength of a martial soul is largely determined by one's bloodline. Xiao Shi was born in the Seven Seas Tang sect, and she awakened her Fire Fox martial soul at the age of 9. Fire Fox is a second-grade martial soul, and only those with the bloodline of the Tang sect can awaken it. Martial souls that are passed down through bloodlines are rare, and other than the Fire Fox, the members of the Qin family with the imperial bloodline of the empire have a special martial soul called the God-Binding Lock. It's a first-grade martial soul, and even a newly awakened God-Binding Lock is enough to raise one's cultivation by 50%. This is something that ordinary people don't even dare to think about. As he spoke, Chu Chu sighed, and looked at Lin Muyu with a trace of sympathy in his eyes. He said, you and I are both commoners, and we don't have that kind of innate bloodline. We can only rely on our own sweat and tears to cultivate our martial souls. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded her head, thinking that the Qin family's martial soul was so strong, and she seemed to have seen the God-Binding Lock before. That's right, when the group of God Realm experts surrounded and attacked the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Qin Yi's martial soul was the God-Binding Lock. It was extremely strong, but it was still no match for the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The 3 mounted their horses and galloped forward, and before sunrise they had already entered the 7 Stars Forest. Chu Chu urged his horse to lead the way, and they came to the front of a mountain peak. He tied up the warhorse, and then led Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi up the mountain. When they arrived at the small mountain peak, they could already see the horizon of the forest in the distance, and the sun was about to rise. Lin Muyu. Chu Chu said in a low voice. Here. Circulate the true qi in your body, and gather all the true qi you can control in front of your chest. Now, hurry. Yes. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, and silently circulated the true qi in his body, gathering it all in front of his chest. But just as the people in the Saint Hall had said, he was a heaven's handicap body, and the true qi couldn't smoothly circulate after passing through the meridian's hub. The pressure in front of his chest increased, and a suffocating and oppressive feeling lingered in front of his chest, as if it was about to crush his chest. Ugh! He endured the pain, and sweat poured down his face like rain. Now, release your strength, and relax your entire body. Release your true qi from your chest. Chu Chu's voice was still very strict. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, and the true qi in his chest leaked out, causing his clothes to flutter and make buzzing sounds. Tang Xiaoxi sat on a rock at the side, smiling as she watched Lin Muyu cultivate. She also released her own martial soul, and that small and exquisite fire fox scuttled around the young girl's arm, even letting out g sounds. It was like a living creature, and it made the young girl giggle and tremble. It still doesn't work. Chu Chu looked at the true qi leaking out of Lin Muyu's chest, and said, martial souls are innate, everyone has their own martial soul, but you, why can't your martial soul come out? Saying this, he looked towards the east, and said, you need to look straight in the direction of the sunrise, look at the sunlight, and don't blink, and don't close your eyes. Yes. Lin Muyu looked towards the direction of the sunrise, and 10,000 rays of red light pierced through the clouds, and the sun was already slowly rising. Chu Chu said, the rising sun is divided into 7 colors, and you need to use your eyes to distinguish the purple from the 7 colors. When you see the purple, it means that you have already captured the essence of the sunlight, purple qi. Qi is the foundation of cultivation, and is also the most fundamental strength of us martial artists. Refining the essence of the purple qi will allow you to quickly form your martial soul. Lin Muyu stared unwaveringly at the sun, and after a few minutes, a miraculous scene occurred. The colors in the sunlight began to slowly separate, and he caught a hint of purple. He firmly held onto it, and his body began to frantically absorb the power of the purple qi like a dried-up lake. At this moment, his body also began to emit a faint purple splendor. Tang Xiaoxi opened her small mouth, and was extremely surprised. She didn't think that Lin Muyu would be able to find the location of the purple qi so quickly. Seeing this, Chu Chu revealed a slight expression of approval, and said, "Continue, condense the purple qi in your body into your chest, and try to force your martial soul again." Yes. A mass of purple qi wandered wantonly in his body, and when Lin Muyu tried to force it out of his body, it suddenly became violent. His chest felt as if it was hit by a heavy blow, and his whole body trembled. His legs suddenly couldn't stand, and with a plop sound, he knelt on the ground, and his whole body trembled. His whole body was in unbearable pain, and a vigorous force was attacking the purple qi in his body. What's wrong with him? Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face revealed a trace of worry and nervousness. Chu Chu gritted his teeth, and suddenly covered his palm on Lin Muyu's back, but he felt a ridiculously strong force crazily devouring his true qi. This force made him feel threatened, and it attacked his own strength, as if it was saying that Lin Muyu's body was his, and he was not allowed to step into it. Dream on. What kind of person was Chu Chu? Naturally, he wouldn't give up so easily. His palms exerted force, and with a loud roar, the power of the Saint Realm spread out, and immediately suppressed the force in Lin Muyu's body. He quickly took a step back, and shouted, "Fire cauldron, come out!" Buzz! A huge martial soul surrounded by raging flames appeared, and immediately enveloped Lin Muyu. Her body was enveloped by a scorching power that could almost kill, and Lin Muyu suddenly opened her eyes, and said, "Chu Chu, what are you doing? Are you going to kill me?" Chu Chu indifferently said, "Don't misunderstand, you are my old friend Chu Feng's disciple, I can't kill you. This move is called boiling pig to death. Since your martial soul is unwilling to come out, then I will personally force it out. I think many experts use this method to refine their martial souls." Chapter 16. The burning sensation became more and more intense. Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. In fact, he hadn't made a single sound since he started cultivating. How could he not be able to endure this bit of pain? Under the high temperature, even the outer layer of his clothes was slowly disintegrating and about to burn. Lin Muyu felt as if every cell in his body was about to evaporate. This kind of pain was absolutely unbearable for ordinary people. On the side, Tang Xiaoxi covered her mouth as she couldn't bear to watch. She had seen Chu Chu use the fire cauldron to deal with others before, but that person was a bandit and was killed by the fire cauldron. Would Lin Muyu also end up like that? Lin Muyu knelt on one knee and supported himself with his arms. He didn't fall under the heat of the fire cauldron, but his mind was almost completely blank. The high temperature had almost taken away his will and thoughts. At this moment, with a bang, a door opened in his mind and a tender voice came, "It's burning me, it's burning me." When he opened his eyes, he saw a little elf flying around in his mind. It even flew out of his mind and danced behind Lin Muyu, shouting, "Big brother, what are you doing? Hurry and tell that old man to stop, he wants to burn you and me together." This elf was about 20 centimeters tall and wore green elven clothes. She also had long legs and a full chest. Her face was very delicate and looked very familiar. Lin Muyu looked again and his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Wasn't this the female elf official Lulu? How did the Lulu in the game come to this world? Lulu. Lin Muyu found that he could use his mind to communicate with this female elf official. Moreover, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi ignored Lulu. They shouldn't be able to see her. Could it be that Lulu only existed in his mind? However, he was about to be burned to death. He hurriedly said, "Lulu, Chu wants to force out my martial spirit." "Where is my martial spirit?" "Just take something out to make up for it." Why am I here? Didn't I go offline in the game?" Big brother, where are you? This place looks like the conquering continent. Lulu flapped her wings and endured the scorching heat. She frowned as if she was blaming him. Big brother, you've either sold or deleted everything. What else can you take out? Woo, there seems to be something in your refining cauldron. Woo, it's a trash gourd. It's the waste left behind from refining the 7-core jade. Is that okay? I'll take it. Lin Muyu was about to be burned to death. How could he care so much? In the next moment, a cool energy surged out of his body. Lin Muyu shouted loudly and forced this martial spirit out of his body. A small green gourd slowly rotated in front of his chest. It was suffused with a faint green light. It looked pretty, but this kind of martial spirit didn't seem very powerful. At this time, Lin Muyu finally understood what a martial spirit was in this world. It was actually equivalent to a martial artist's innate magical weapon. It was used to attack and defend. Oh, it appeared. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Chu Chu nodded his head in satisfaction and said, so it's a green gourd martial spirit. No wonder this brat has good attainments in alchemy. The fire cauldron dispersed. The grass around Lin Muyu had already been burned. The female elf official, Lulu, had once again fallen into a deep sleep. No one knew when she would wake up again. He extended his hand to hold his martial spirit. The green gourd slowly rotated in his palm. There was a spiritual contract between them. It was as if he could sense any trace of the martial spirit's aura. Chu Chu said, although it's a 10th grade martial spirit, it should be of some use if it's cultivated properly. At least it's enough to deal with Huawan. Is a 10th grade martial spirit powerful? Lin Muyu asked carefully. Tang Xiaoxi covered her mouth and snickered. Chu Chu also laughed. Martial spirits are divided into 10 grades. My fire cauldron is ranked 4th, Princess Xi's fire fox is ranked 2nd, and your green gourd is ranked 10th. What do you think? In other words, this green gourd is the weakest? Lin Muyu said. Yes. Ah. Lin Muyu screamed in her heart. This gourd was a waste from her refining. If she hadn't sold the 7-star lamp, profound spirit staff, 9 heavens demon lotus and other sacred weapons, any one of them would probably be considered a 1st or 2nd grade martial spirit in this world. She regretted it so much that her intestines were about to turn green. Tang Xiaoxi was a kind girl. She probably felt that Lin Muyu was very sad at this moment. She comforted her, Mu, don't be sad. A 10th grade martial spirit has a chance to evolve into a 9th grade, or even an 8th or 7th grade martial spirit. Don't be depressed, there will be a chance. Then is there a chance to evolve into a 1st grade martial spirit? Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. You're dreaming. It seemed like she was not good at comforting people. Lin Muyu did not mind as he had thought of another way. He was a master in the art of craftsmanship. As long as he had enough materials, he would be able to refine this green gourd into a top-notch magical weapon. It would definitely not be weaker than a grade 1 martial spirit. He was confident that he could do it. Chu Chu said, a cultivator's life is actually spent on cultivating his martial spirit. The stronger the martial spirit, the stronger the power of his attack and defense. This is because the martial spirit will provide the source of power for any of your combat skills. Do you understand? I understand. Thank you, Chu. The haze in Lin Muyu's heart was swept away. Chu Chu nodded his head in satisfaction and said with a smile, the green gourd is a plant-type martial spirit. It specializes in healing, binding, and defense. This is also your main direction of development. In the future, you may be a support-type warrior. Don't rush to the front in battle. Just understand this. Okay. Let's continue. Your power is still in the chaotic period. Find a spirit beast that is over 200 years old and kill it before noon. Use your green gourd to absorb the beast's spirit and see how much it can improve your personal power. Yes. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded, thank you, Chu. Chu Chu stroked his beard and smiled, don't thank me. It's not that easy. Any cultivator needs to go through hardships. Once you meet a suitable spirit beast, I will not take action. You need to kill it yourself. Otherwise, you are not worthy of absorbing the beast spirit. Do you understand? Lin Muyu's heart moved. She couldn't help but sigh. This old fellow did not seem to care about his own life and death. He was too inhumane. It was said that a 200-year-old spirit beast's strength was equivalent to a level 20 battle spirit. Whether or not one could kill it depended on one's luck. At this moment, it started to drizzle. After the three of them went down the mountain, they found their horses and galloped towards the depths of the forest. Lin Muyu was dressed in green and looked extremely handsome. Tang Xiaoxi was wearing a fiery red dress and an exquisite cloak. When the drizzle landed on her face, it was like spring rain falling on pear blossoms. There was an inexplicable sense of beauty. Lin Muyu couldn't help but praise Princess Xi in her heart. Princess Xi's cultivation at such a young age was indeed impressive. If it was any other noble family's daughter, she would have asked to find a place to hide from the rain instead of continuing to travel in the rain. Not long after, dark clouds covered the sky. The Seven Stars forest was as dark as night. Flashes of lightning flashed across the sky like sharp knives stabbing into the ancient forest. Lin Muyu comforted his mount so that it wouldn't be frightened by the lightning. Chu Chu also slowed down his galloping speed. He had to take good care of Tang Xiaoxi. After all, Princess Xi's cultivation was his top priority during this trip. Looking at the long sword and longbow on Lin Muyu's back, Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Brat, why are you carrying a bow? This is my hidden weapon. Hidden weapon? Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. What's the use of this hidden weapon? Lin Muyu said seriously, although my cultivation in martial arts is far from yours, I know that an inch longer is an inch stronger. If the enemy is tens of meters away from me, I will use my bow and arrows. If he gets close to me, I will use my sword. If I don't have a longbow, the time he gets close to me will be wasted. If I can kill the target from a few meters away, there's no need for him to get close to me, right? Chu Chu was stunned for a moment. He couldn't help but nod his head in approval. What you said is reasonable, but this longbow is too conspicuous and too ostentatious. It can't be considered a real hidden weapon. If you really want a hidden weapon, I have a gift for you. Oh, a gift? Lin Muyu couldn't help but be happy. Chu Chu took out a cloth bag from the backpack on the horse's butt and tossed it over. Lin Muyu caught it and opened it to see that it was 4 very exquisite flying daggers. The curves of the daggers were very bright, and they were as clear as the moon. Even in the dark environment, one could see that the edges of the daggers were like snow. These are the weapons left behind by Feng Yicheng. Feng Yicheng is an expert in using flying knives. He can take a person's life from 100 meters away. These 4 flying knives can be shot one by one, or they can be combined to form a rotating blade. But it takes a lot of effort to master this hidden weapon. Chu Chu said. Thank you Chu. Lin Muyu smiled. Tang Xiaoxi, who was at the side, blinked her big watery eyes and smiled. Feng Yicheng? Could it be the famous general who guarded the southern border for nearly 20 years, Feng Yicheng? Yes, that's him. Unfortunately, General Feng died in the hands of the bandits. Chu Chu said with some regret. What's rare is that Feng Yicheng wasn't born of noble blood. He was a genius and one of the 12 commanders of the empire. What a pity. Tang Xiaoxi said, Feng Yicheng died in battle more than 10 years ago. It's rare that Chu still has his belongings here. Chu Chu said, he was an old friend of mine. These flying knives were given to me by someone before he died in battle. Lin Muyu's mind trembled. He suddenly felt the weight of these 4 flying knives increase. He gratefully raised his head and looked at Chu Chu. Thank you, Chu Chu, this time the gratitude came from the heart. However, Chu Chu smiled. It's a good thing I'm not good at using hidden weapons. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had a chance to obtain such a divine weapon. That's right. These flying knives were extremely exquisite. Every one of them had a hollowed-out air passage and a rotating design. This meant that every flying knife would return after being thrown out. If one wanted to use such a hidden weapon well, one must practice the skill of catching and retrieving it. This was also a big challenge. If one couldn't catch it or let it go, one's hand would be gone. After all, these flying knives were too sharp. He put the flying knives into his bag and slowly practiced later. Chapter 17. In the rain, the spiritual beasts all hid in their nests, as if they couldn't find a good target to attack. Thus, the three of them advanced slowly in the rain. Chu didn't have an umbrella or a cloak in the rain, but the rainwater flowed down his body, not drenching his clothes at all. This was a little shocking. Lin Muyu also had a basic understanding of the holy domain, and he was very shocked. Chu only smiled at the shocked lad and said, "Every Heaven Realm expert can turn their true qi into battle energy. That's an even stronger power. With the protection of battle energy, you will naturally be impervious to fire and water." Lin Muyu nodded, not really understanding. Tang Xiaoxi took off her cloak and revealed a beautiful face. She smiled and said, Chu, what kind of beast spirit do you think I need to refine to help my fire fox martial soul grow?" Chu said, "The fire fox is of the fire attribute, so it's naturally better to absorb the spirit of a fire attribute beast. However, the rain is slippery, and the fire attribute spiritual beasts are all hiding in their dry nests. I don't think you'll be able to find one even if you want to. Moreover, Princess Shi is about to enter the Earth realm, so you'll need to absorb at least 2,000 beast spirit, which will be even harder to find. However, Lin Muyu's green gourd might be able to find a good enough spiritual beast. Is it because the green gourd is of the plant attribute, and the rain is the best time for plants to grow?" "That's right." Chu looked at the dense forest in front of him and said, "Get off the horse and walk. We'll enter the forest and see if we can find one or two suitable plant attribute spiritual beasts." "Okay." The three of them dismounted from their horses and held onto the reins as they walked through the dense forest. At this moment, the rain seemed to be getting heavier and heavier, and the pitter-patter of the raindrops could be heard. Lin Muyu furrowed his brows. He did not have Chu's level of cultivation, nor did he have Tang Xiaoxi's waterproof cloak. His entire body was already drenched, but it did not matter, he could endure this little bit of hardship. "Be careful." Chu suddenly stretched out his hand to stop the two youngsters. He pointed to a black plant in front of them and said, "Let's go around it. There's a plant that's currently eating." "Meat plate?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "What's that?" Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, "Mu, the carnivorous plate is a plant-type spiritual beast. In fact, it's also a kind of wild beast. It specializes in eating rotten corpses. It's not very aggressive, but it's highly poisonous. Let's avoid it." "Chu, how old is this plate?" Chu said, "There are a total of 7 black circles on the top of its head. It should be a 70-year-old meat dish." "Forget it, the spirit of this plant-type spirit beast isn't pure, it's not worth using." Lin Muyu stared at it fixedly. Could this millstone-sized plant really eat meat? The next moment, it seemed to feel that someone was staring at it. The slightly trembling millstone-sized plant slowly raised its face. It was a face full of barbs and mucus. It was hideous and terrifying. Below the face, there was a mouth that was chewing on the carcass of a young wild boar on the ground. For a moment, the stench filled the air. Ugh, so disgusting. Tang Xiaoxi covered her nose and quickly led her horse away. Chu said, "Brat, stop looking. Let's go." "Okay." Lin Muyu hurriedly chased after it, but she was still in a state of shock. The 7-star forest was indeed an inhumane place. There were even these kinds of monsters. This carnivorous plate was something that she had never seen before in the game. It seemed that not everything in this world matched up with the game's timeline. After walking for a long distance, the three of them couldn't find the path anymore. They could only cut their way through the thorns. Lin Muyu also pulled out the sharp steel sword from her back and walked in front of Tang Xiaoxi to cut the thorns. As they walked, suddenly, a green vine appeared on the ground. It was so green that even the steel sword couldn't cut it. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be shocked. What kind of vine is this? Why is it so tough? Chu Chu only glanced at it and said in a low voice, "Stop cutting, or you'll die." "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu hurriedly stopped. Chu Chu's eyes lit up as he looked around. He smiled and said, "It seems that we've met the legendary green vine monster." "Hee, we're really lucky." "Green vine monster?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled excitedly and said, "I've seen the description of this kind of spirit beast in the 100 Beasts chart, but I've never seen it in person." "Where is it?" "Princess Shi, you have to be careful. This green vine monster has at least 500 years of cultivation." "Ah." Tang Xiaoxi opened her small mouth. "Then it should be very strong?" "Yes." Chu Chu pointed forward and said, "Boy, your spirit beast has appeared. Do you see the red crown of the grass in front of you? That's the head of the green vine monster. Go, kill this green vine monster, but you must be careful of its vines. If you get entangled, I'm afraid even a god wouldn't be able to save you. Remember, I won't save you. If you can't kill this green vine monster, then you'll become its delicious meal. This green vine monster eats plants and also humans." Chu Chu's words were firm and unquestionable. Of course, Lin Muyu also knew the pros and cons. She took a deep breath, but she wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Instead, she dipped all the arrows in her quiver in a paralyzing potion and drank a bottle of stoneskin potion. If her defense was strong enough, she shouldn't be killed so easily. Tang Xiaoxi stood at the side and summoned her martial soul. The fire fox appeared on her shoulder and seemed eager to fight. She smiled and said in a low voice, "Mu, be careful when you fight. But don't worry, if you really can't defeat this green vine monster, I'll secretly help you even if Chu doesn't help you." Lin Muyu smiled gratefully, "Thank you, Princess Shi." After saying that, he stepped forward, drew his bow, aimed at the head of the green vine monster, and shot an arrow. After all, the green vine monster was a plant, so it was always in a deep sleep. The arrow hit its head with a pu sound and splashed a bit of emerald green juice, but it was definitely not fatal. No plant would die from one arrow. Rustle, rustle, rustling sounds came from the ground, and the soil was flipped up. Vines emerged from all directions and gathered around the green vine monster. The head of the tree suddenly rose, and suddenly, a huge green vine monster rose from the ground. It was actually 3 meters tall, and it was really a huge monster. Thousands of green vines twisted like poisonous snakes, and one of them suddenly reached towards Lin Muyu with a biting cold killing intent. This 500-year spirit beast's killing intent could be seen the moment it attacked. Swoosh! The green vine tentacle swept past like lightning, and it was about to pierce through Lin Muyu's chest. This was the green vine monster's specialty, and countless cultivators had died under this move since ancient times. However, Lin Muyu was not one of those people. He saw it clearly, and with a slide, he dodged like a shadow. Even Chu Chu was shocked. What a beautiful movement technique. That was the butterfly steps of the fallen star steps. The fallen star steps had a total of 3 movement techniques: butterfly steps, star steps, and glory steps. The butterfly steps focused on moving in a curve, and it was a necessary movement technique in battle. The star steps allowed one to move as if they were flying, and their speed would increase exponentially. The glory steps was more profound, and it was a movement technique similar to flashing. It could instantly increase one's speed to the extreme, but it would not last long. After dodging with the butterfly steps, Lin Muyu raised his right hand and pulled out his steel sword. He slashed at the green vine in front of his chest. Pung! He still couldn't cut it, but the juice had already splashed out. So tough. He was shocked. Chu Chu watched from afar, and he said in a deep voice, "Young man, learn how to integrate the power of your martial spirit. Your green gourd can provide you with a very good source of power. Concentrate the power of your martial spirit into your arms and the blade, and you will be able to cut off the vine arm of a 500 years old spiritual beast. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, Lin Muyu's situation was not looking good. The green vine monster had already used more than 10 green vine arms to attack and entangle him. If it weren't for the fallen star steps, he would have been killed by the vine arms. While dodging the attacks of the vine arms, he silently circulated his Jin Qi and awakened his martial spirit. Suddenly, the green glow of the green gourd slowly appeared on his arms. The power went through his arms and into his weapon. He turned around and chopped down. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. One of the vine arms of the green vine spirit had been chopped off. Green juice splashed everywhere. Beautiful! Tang Xiaoxi smiled and cheered. But at the same time, Lin Muyu's back shook. His back was hit by one of the vine arms of the green vine monster. He quickly bent down, but his chest was hit again, and he rolled on the ground. He felt a burning pain, and blood seeped out of his clothes. He was injured. Ah! Tang Xiaoxi was shocked. She felt the heat in her palm, and the fire fox martial spirit appeared. She roared, and the fire soared into the sky. She was going to attack. Chu Chu quickly shouted, "Princess Shi, don't." He can only rely on himself to pass this, or else he won't be able to surpass his own strength, and he will never know where his limit is. If you really care about him, you must believe in him. But Tang Xiaoxi was speechless for a while, and she could only continue to watch Lin Muyu being chased by the green vine monster. She used the falling star steps to escape, and at the same time, she turned around and pulled out her bow to shoot. The power of her martial spirit was concentrated in her arms, and each arrow almost penetrated the trunk of the green vine monster, but it didn't seem to be fatal. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The surroundings shook violently, and suddenly, the ground was lifted up. Thousands of vines rose from the ground, and directly tied Lin Muyu up. She actually fell into the green vine monster's trap. Stupid Mu. Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance in shock. Chu Chu closed his eyes and sensed Lin Muyu's aura fluctuation from afar. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said with a smile, "Don't worry, Princess Shi. This kid's life is very tough. He won't die so easily." Sure enough, after a loud shout, the steel sword pierced through the green vines, and cut down dozens of vines. Lin Muyu stepped out. Although he was in a sorry state, he wasn't dead yet. Chu Chu said loudly, "The green vine monster's weakness is its head. As long as you can cut off its head, you can kill it." Damn old man, why didn't you say so earlier? Lin Muyu endured the pain in her body and activated the falling star steps. She leaped into the air and stepped on the green vine spirit's vine arm as she dashed forward. Her speed was so fast that she was like a bolt of lightning. Chu Chu was secretly shocked. This guy is really a freak. Where did he get such a fast speed? Logically speaking, with his cultivation level, even if he drank a first-grade speed potion, he shouldn't be able to move so fast. Chapter 18. Ka. After the steel sword was infused with the power of the martial spirit, it seemed to become a divine weapon. After a flash of light, the green vine demon immediately let out a violent howl, and slowly collapsed. Lin Muyu stood on its head, and very quickly, the green spirit of the wild beast formed a circle above the green vine demon's head. "Now," Chu Chu whispered, "sit down and use your green gourd to absorb the vine monster's beast spirit. Not only will it increase the power of your martial spirit, it will also increase your own strength. Your body has just entered the chaotic stage, so there is no clear standard for your strength. But after the first evolution of your martial spirit, your strength will be determined." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She immediately sat next to the vine monster's corpse and summoned her green gourd. The moment her martial spirit touched the vine monster's beast spirit, she didn't even need to guide it. The green gourd began to crazily devour the vine monster's beast spirit. Since they were both plants, the green gourd seemed to be more compatible with the vine monster. The green gourd's light became brighter and brighter. At the same time, Lin Muyu felt that the strength of her Jinqi was increasing. The vine monster had brought great benefits to her. At the side, Chu Chu smiled and said, if this kid is lucky enough, he might be able to comprehend the beast spirit's main body's special skill. Tang Xiaoxi blinked her eyes and said, but Grandpa told me that the probability of learning the special skill of the beast spirit is less than 20%. My fire fox has evolved twice, but it only learned the fire wolf's flame. Chu Chu said, this is all up to fate. My fire cauldron has a total of 9 layers and evolved 9 times, but it only has 3 skills. It all depends on this kid's luck. Lin Muyu was refining the beast spirit, but she could still hear their conversation. At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in her mind. It was the elven female official, Lulu. She had woken up again. This was the perfect time. She appeared in front of Lin Muyu and stretched her body. She smiled and said, I slept so much, Lulu. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. I'm refining the beast's soul. Help me open the cauldron. Hurry. Yes. When Lulu opened the cauldron, a bright light enveloped Lin Muyu. Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi could no longer see what Lin Muyu was doing. They only knew that he was absorbing the spirit of the wild beasts. However, in front of Lin Muyu, there was a cauldron floating in the air. The green gourd was spinning rapidly in the cauldron. As an elf officer, Lulu seemed to be able to see through everything. She smiled and said, the skill contained in this spirit of the beast is entanglement of roots. It can provide the effect of gourd vine entanglement, but it needs some materials to make a weapon. What materials do you need? 1 liter of water, 2 gold coins, and some soil to nourish the gourd vines. That's easy. Lin Muyu couldn't help but chuckle. There was water in the puddle nearby. Gold coins and soil were everywhere. He took some water and dug some soil to fill the cauldron. Then, he took out 2 gold coins and threw them into the cauldron. Immediately, Lulu closed her eyes and a satisfied smile appeared on her pretty face. As the items were mixed together, the cauldron shone even brighter. In an instant, all the gold coins were refined and turned into golden powder that seeped into the green gourd martial spirit. The water and soil were naturally absorbed by the green gourd martial spirit. This process lasted for about 10 minutes. It was a success. Buzz. The green gourd martial spirit trembled violently. Green vines extended from the top of the gourd. It was a very rural scene. Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi were stunned. This idiot Mu really awakened his martial spirit's skill. Tang Xiaoxi murmured to herself. Chu Chu laughed, this kid, fortune favors fools. Lin Muyu thought to himself, I'm not a fool, I'm a grandmaster blacksmith. Lin Muyu was able to refine the wild beast spirit of a 500-year-old green vine demon in less than 10 minutes. This was too shocking. However, Lin Muyu stood up in high spirits. Her aura seemed to have undergone a huge change. Chu Chu smiled and said, Kid, why don't you show me your martial soul's skill? Yes, Chu, with a thought, the green gourd martial spirit appeared in front of her chest. Shwa shwa shwa, vines wrapped around a small tree, immobilizing it. When Lin Muyu exerted his strength, the small tree was snapped in half. Wow, this is fun. Tang Xiaoxi laughed, Mu's martial spirit's skill is so interesting. Princess, you're flattering me. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. Tang Xiaoxi immediately broke his pretense, I'm not flattering you, I just think it's very interesting. This kind of childish skill is useless in a real battle. Lin Muyu was speechless. It's better than nothing. Chu Chu comforted her. Lin Muyu nodded in relief. Alright, let's use the testing crystal to see your current strength. The testing crystal was in the bag on the back of the horse. After taking it out, Lin Muyu covered it with her palm, shouted in a low voice, and exerted all her strength. Suddenly, her martial spirit shone brightly, and the strength reading in the testing crystal increased rapidly, jumping continuously. Finally, there was a long line and 7 short lines. Chu Chu smiled slightly. Level 17 warrior, not bad. Anyway, you've stepped into the second layer of the human realm. If you practice for a few days, there's still hope for you to defeat Huawan. Well, thank you, Chu. At night, the heavy rain finally stopped, and the entire 7-star forest was muddy. It was impossible for people to live in this kind of deep mountain, and hunters didn't dare to live in the depths of the 7-star forest. After all, no one wanted to wake up in the middle of the night and be bitten off by a 1,000-year-old spirit beast. Therefore, Chu Chu, Lin Muyu, and Tang Xiaoxi could only camp in the mountain for a night. After finding some dry wood, they rested in a small kernel. Tang Xiaoxi ignited the wood with her fire fox martial spirit, baked buns, and had dinner. Then, under the light of the fire, Tang Xiaoxi sat cross-legged and practiced. Her whole body was emitting a faint flame aura. This girl practiced the law of fire, and her figure was indeed very hot. After practicing for a while, Lin Muyu's genuine qi could already pass through her meridians without any obstruction. The legend of the heaven's disabled body had been broken, but the strength of her genuine qi couldn't be increased rapidly. She had to give up. She stood up and took out the flying daggers given by Chu Chu from the bag. It was time to practice this flying dagger technique. The longbow was not a hidden weapon, and it was not convenient to carry around, let alone attack when the enemy was unprepared. For fear of hurting Tang Xiaoxi, he went to the hillside and observed the 4 flying daggers in the moonlight. They were unique and exquisite, shining brightly under the moonlight. Throw. Shwa. The cold light flew far away, emitting a shrill sound in the wind. In the blink of an eye, it returned, but Lin Muyu didn't catch it. He didn't want to die yet. Pa. The flying dagger pierced into the tree trunk at the side. He pulled it out and threw it again. Then, he dodged it again, and observed it over and over again. Just like that, he threw for more than an hour. In the darkness, a figure observed him for a long time, and finally couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you try catching it?" Lin Muyu turned around and smiled. "Oh, it's Chu Chu. It's not that I don't want to catch it, but I need more experience in observation, to understand the trajectory of the flying dagger under different strength and angles. Otherwise, I'm afraid both of my hands would be ruined." Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. "What a smart boy. I really didn't misjudge you. In your hands, this flying knife will definitely be able to display its full potential. However, you've been observing for too long. Try to catch it. As a martial artist, it's almost impossible to cultivate a secret art without suffering some injuries." However, this was too much of a test of eyesight, especially under the moonlight. But Lin Muyu still started to try without hesitation. He suddenly threw the flying dagger, and quickly judged the angle of its rotation, as well as the rotation trajectory of the handle and the blade. He wanted to catch the handle, not the blade. Pa! He suddenly made his move, but his fingers didn't completely touch the handle. Instead, they were swept by the blade before he could grab the handle. Suddenly, he felt a burning pain, and blood flowed out. His index finger was cut open. Fortunately, you are an alchemist. You have all kinds of medicine for wounds. Chu Chu laughed, taking pleasure in Xiao Chen's misfortune. Lin Muyu didn't have the mood to bother with this inhumane teacher. He took out some medicine and applied it on his finger. Then, he tried a dozen more times. When he didn't catch it the second time, he quickly dodged it. He could catch the rest, and he had already mastered the technique of catching knives. The next step was to judge the trajectory of the flying dagger after it hit the target, which was even more difficult. When it was late at night, Lin Muyu's left and right hands were already full of wounds. Luckily, he had a sense of propriety and didn't injure his muscles or bones. Otherwise, it would definitely affect his cultivation. Even so, he had almost used up all the medicine. Luckily, he was an alchemist and could concoct medicine on the spot. He looked around and found some silver thread grass and long night flower. They were common herbs, so he picked some. Then, he found an iron pear flower. Hua! He opened his hand and the essence condensing hand appeared. He started to extract the energy from the iron pear flower. Chu Chu leaned against the stone wall, pretending to take a nap. However, he was secretly watching Lin Muyu as she refined the medicine. Just as Lin Muyu was adding the iron pear flower's medicinal essence powder into the gold sore medicine, Chu Chu finally could not hold it in any longer. He leaped forward and raised his eyebrows as he asked, "Brat, according to the medicinal encyclopedia, the gold sore medicine only requires silver thread grass and long night flower. Why did you add the iron pear flower?" Lin Muyu smiled and said confidently, "Although the iron pear flower's energy powder can't cure injuries, it can speed up the healing process. Furthermore, the silver thread grass and long night flower are both warm, while the iron pear flower is cold. After neutralizing the cold, the medicinal effect will be even better." Chu Chu's eyes widened. You're not lying to me, right? Why would I lie to you? The medicine I concoct is definitely a first-grade medicine, do you believe me? Chu Chu sniffed the bottle of medicine he had just concocted. His face turned ashen. "It really is a first-grade medicine." Lin Muyu continued to concoct the medicine. She took out some swift wolf's blood and softened the energy of the blue-silver grass. Finally, she took out an apple from her bag, crushed it, and soaked it in apple juice. Chu Chu was dumbfounded again. "Why did you add apple juice?" Lin Muyu smiled. "The swift wolf's blood is very violent and aggressive. Adding a little apple juice can soften its aggressive nature, making the medicine more effective. Also what?" The Saint Realm expert's eyes widened like copper bells. Lin Muyu smiled. "Also, the medicine made with apple juice is very tasty." Very, very tasty. Chu Chu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His knowledge in the alchemy world was instantly subverted by this young man in front of him. Chu Chu was an expert in martial arts all his life, but he was a rookie in alchemy. So much so that after meeting a grandmaster alchemist like Lin Muyu, he didn't feel like he had ever learned alchemy. Chapter 19. Chu Chu squatted on the ground and watched Lin Muyu refine medicine like a studious child. When he saw how Lin Muyu skillfully peeled off the iron and stone layers of the iron pear flower with the essence condensing hands, he almost gasped in amazement. He had seen many experts in his life, but he had never seen an alchemist who could refine medicine with such an exquisite technique. Even the alchemy king level alchemists he had seen before didn't have such a miraculous technique. Looking at the restless Chu Chu, Lin Muyu couldn't help but snicker inwardly. Chu Chu was an expert who had stepped into the Saint Realm, and his status on the continent was obvious. But everyone had a weakness, and Chu Chu's weakness was his love for alchemy. So Lin Muyu smiled and said, "This technique is called the essence condensing hands. What do you think? Do you want to learn it?" Chu Chu immediately nodded repeatedly, "Yes. Alright, I'll teach you." Lin Muyu clapped her hands happily and said, "But, there's a condition." Chu Chu immediately raised an eyebrow. "Kid, what do you want? Just say it. As long as you're willing to teach me alchemy, I'll do anything." Lin Muyu had already made up her mind and said slowly, "I'll teach you the essence condensing hands, but you must teach me your best battle technique." "What do you think? Teach you battle techniques?" "Yes." Lin Muyu scratched her head. "Chu, Kathaya City's bookstores also sell battle techniques, but they're too expensive. It's also very expensive to learn from a master, and I don't have that much money. If I cultivate with you, you'll only teach me how to summon my martial spirit, but not any real battle techniques. As you can see, the green gourd is suited for defense, but not offense, so I want to learn offensive techniques." Chu Chu sighed and looked deeply at Lin Muyu. "But I swore a long time ago that I would never accept a disciple in this life. Otherwise, I will die by the sword." Lin Muyu smiled. "I don't want to be your disciple, I just want to learn combat skills. Besides, this is a deal. I'll teach you alchemy, and you'll teach me combat skills. How about it?" "Then, all right." Chu Chu really couldn't resist the temptation of the condensed essence hand, and said, "But you have to promise me one thing, you can't teach the battle skills that I taught you to anyone else." I, Chu Chu, have comprehended more than half of the martial arts in my life by myself. The world is chaotic, I don't want the battle skills that I created to become killing skills. How about it, can you promise me that? Lin Muyu immediately nodded. I promise that I will never teach anyone else the combat skills you taught me. All right then. As he spoke, Chu Chu leapt a few meters back and smiled. I will demonstrate 3 combat techniques. Take a look and choose one to learn. All right. Chu Chu's eyes were calm and steady. His entire body stood on the ground with the posture of empty. Tai, as if he could shake the heavens but not the earth. He opened his left palm slightly and with a low roar, a bolt of purple lightning suddenly condensed between his fingers. With a pang sound, a giant rock on his right was directly broken in half. This is the lightning strike. It condenses the lightning element of nature and instantly attacks the target separately. It can be used barehanded or in conjunction with a weapon. Again. Chu Chu was calm and composed. With a slight shake of his sleeves, he let out a low roar. Immediately, the ground around him began to tremble. Fighting chi was released and layers of green rock shields appeared around him. In the blink of an eye, the shields were shattered. This is the green rock armor. It condenses fighting chi into a wall to protect oneself. It is also a combat technique that I created. It is suitable for defense. You can also condense the green rock armor with fighting chi. However, the green rock armor, created with fighting chi, is even more indestructible. Again. As he spoke, Chu Chu let out a low roar and clenched his hand into a fist. He threw a punch at the giant tree in front of him. The air instantly fluctuated and after a sharp whistling sound, the tree received a heavy blow. Pang! The branches of the tree shook violently, but Lin Muyu did not see any damage to the tree. She smiled and said, "It doesn't look like much." Is that so? Chu Chu smiled slightly. Take a closer look. When Lin Muyu looked again, she found that the bark of the giant tree was cracked. Even the trunk was as brittle as cotton and fell with a loud bang. This woke Tang Xiaoxi from her sleep. She rubbed her beautiful eyes and sat up. What happened? Chu Chu smiled from afar and said, "Princess, it's nothing. It's still early, you can sleep a bit more." Tang Xiaoxi was sleeping soundly, so she didn't think too much about it. She laid on her side and fell asleep again. This move is called Demon Sound Fist. It uses the pulsation of battle chi to create a strong fluctuation effect in the air, forming a sound wave to attack the opponent. If your cultivation is high enough, you can even injure the opponent's internal organs. Chu Chu smiled proudly. It's also a martial art that I created. How about it? Lightning strike, demon sound fist, green rock armor, which one do you choose to learn? Demon sound fist. Lin Muyu did not hesitate. This move was too flashy. Chu Chu smiled and said, "You really know your stuff. It's a pity that the demon sound fist requires a lot of chi to use. As for you, you should be able to make some progress in it in about 7 or 8 years." Lin Muyu was slightly surprised. This. Then I'd better learn lightning strike. If I use it with my sword, the power should not be small, right? That's right. I also approve of you learning lightning strike. Thus, Chu Chu sat cross-legged on a huge rock and began to dictate the principles of lightning strike. First, she must learn to meditate and feel the lightning element in the air. If she couldn't even feel the lightning element, then she would not be able to learn this move. Lin Muyu was naturally smart. After meditating for a little more than an hour, she could already feel the violent lightning element in the air. These elements were like living creatures. When Lin Muyu tried to touch them, they would move far away. Chu Chu faintly smiled and continued to teach. One of the great mysteries of condensing the lightning element was the word absorb. You must use your own chi to attract the lightning element. During this process, Lin Muyu practiced for almost 2 hours. Finally, he learned how to release his qi to absorb the lightning element. When the lightning element between his 5 fingers was dense with crackling sounds, he was so excited that his heart almost jumped out. The last part was a relatively simple process. He had to infuse the lightning element into the blade and then find the best angle to cut through the air. This strike had to be fast and accurate, and it could not be sloppy. When the lightning element passed through the air and formed a shock wave, this move would be considered complete. Lin Muyu pulled out the steel sword and with a low roar, the lightning element flowed from his arms into the steel sword. The edge of the sword was wrapped in lightning. Although it wasn't as strong as Chu Chu's, it still looked quite powerful. With a schwa sound, she forcefully slashed down. The friction between the lightning element and the air created a chi-chi sound. Too slow. Chu Chu wrinkled his eyebrows and said, "This sound isn't right. If your attack speed is too slow, then the destructive power will naturally decrease. The shorter the sound of the friction between the lightning element and the air, the stronger the destructive power." As he said this, he raised his arm and lightly waved it. Almost without any sound, the small tree at the side had already been cut in half. Do you see this? Only when you reach this speed can it be considered a true lightning strike. Lin Muyu originally thought that he had made some small progress. Now, compared to the power of Chu Chu's lightning strike, he simply hadn't even reached the beginner level. Therefore, Lin Muyu practiced sword after sword until she was so focused that she forgot to eat or sleep. On the other hand, Chu Chu plucked an iron pear flower and sat to the side. He slowly used the condensing essence hand to refine the medicine, but his condensing essence hand technique was too strong. It caused the outer layer of iron around the iron pear flower to crack and emit a series of explosive sounds. This meant that the refining of the medicine had failed. The iron pear flower's medicine had already been contaminated and destroyed by the impurities. Lin Muyu watched from afar and shook her head as if saying, "You can't even do such a small thing?" Chu Chu lowered his head with a face full of shame. His use of true qi was far inferior to Lin Muyu's, at least when it came to the application of the condensing essence hand. Refining medicine required a moderate amount of strength. It was not good to have more or less than that. All the way until the wee hours of the morning, Lin Muyu finally couldn't take it anymore. She lay down not far from Tang Xiaoxi and slept for a while. However, she didn't sleep for more than 3 hours before she was woken up by Chu Chu. Chu Chu seemed to be a person who never needed sleep. He didn't sleep for the whole night, but instead seemed to be full of energy. He held up a pile of medicine and asked Lin Muyu, "Look, how is the purity of these medicine?" Lin Muyu only glanced at it and said, "It's much better than last night." With more practice, the condensing essence hand can be considered a success. "That's right, how's your lightning strike practice going?" Chu Chu asked with a smile. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. The moment she raised her hand to pull out the long sword, the lightning element had already appeared on the blade. With a kacha sound, the blade cut through the air, splitting a stone the size of a bowl into 2. The cut was very neat. Chu Chu nodded and smiled. "It's not bad. It's slightly powerful now. With more practice, it'll naturally become even more powerful." Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, was so shocked that her small mouth gaped open. Mu is actually this powerful. After hastily eating breakfast, they continued to advance into the depths of the 7 Stars forest. They only had one goal, and that was to find a fire element spirit beast. Moreover, it had to be above 2,000 years old. Using this kind of spirit beast as an offering for Tang Xiaoxi to reach level 30 and enter the earth realm would be enough. Unfortunately, the heavens didn't seem to want them to meet a suitable spirit beast too early. In the morning, they saw 3 spirit beasts. A 1,200-year-old green python scared Tang Xiaoxi so much that she cried out. A 240-year-old mountain cat, but unfortunately, it was of the wood element. The only fire element spirit beast was a fierce bear, but it only had 700 years of cultivation, so they could only let it go. "Chu, I heard that old spirit beasts can produce spirit stones, and spirit stones can be sold for money. With your cultivation, you can easily kill these spirit beasts. Why are you avoiding them one by one? Lin Muyu asked. Chu Chu sat on his horse and said leisurely, all living beings have intelligence, and they are also living beings. They have the same right to live as us. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't kill spirit beasts for spirit stones. Besides, Jinxiong coins are just a common thing. Chapter 20. Lin Muyu was secretly speechless. Chu Chu's cultivation was indeed not something she could compare with. He seemed more like an otherworldly expert. Perhaps all experts who had stepped into the Saint Realm would be like this? Who knew? In any case, the strongest person Lin Muyu had seen was this level 94 Saint Realm expert in front of her. The second strongest person was Eagle Eye, who was killed by her with a single slash. It was a pity that Eagle Eye treated human life like grass. Compared to Chu Chu, he was simply an unforgivable villain. In the afternoon, they had officially entered the true depths of the Seven Stars Forest. All kinds of spirit beasts ran amok, and many of them were ferocious beasts that killed people. Fortunately, Chu Chu's cultivation was extremely high. He brought the two young people along and avoided the foraging routes of the spirit beasts, so they were safe. When it was close to evening, they finally came to a wasteland. Immediately, Chu Chu became excited and said with a smile, Princess Shi, your beast spirit is not far away. Oh. Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face was filled with confusion. Chu Chu explained, it's obviously autumn now, but the grass in this wasteland has already withered. This is a sign of winter. This can only mean that the grass has been roasted. There must be a fire attribute spirit beast living in this area. Furthermore, to be able to affect the environment to such an extent, the beast spirit must be at least 2,000 years old. Tang Xiaoxi said happily, all right, let's hurry over. Chu Chu urged the horse forward, and Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi also followed. As they got closer, even the wind that blew against their faces had a scorching feeling. Further ahead, the small forest was already barren, and only a few withered trees were left. Chu Chu dismounted, plucked a branch, and slowly crushed it, saying, this tree has been withered for more than 3 years. This evil beast must have been here for more than 3 years, so it is quite familiar with the terrain and smell here. Be careful, we might have encountered an extremely strong spirit beast. If the beast spirit is more than 10,000 years old, the two of you should quickly run. Run? Lin Muyu asked cautiously, could it be that Chu can't defeat a 10,000 years old spirit beast? Tang Xiaoxi giggled, silly Mu, Chu is a level 94 holy venerable, and a 10,000 years old spirit beast should have the strength of a holy venerable. If this spirit beast is more than 30,000 years old, then it should have the strength of a level 100 holy king. We don't even have to run anymore. Chu Chu looked back at Lin Muyu and smiled, hey, are you scared yet? Lin Muyu sat lazily on the horse, it's all right, a princess and a holy venerable will be eaten with me. As a level 17 trash, it's not a loss. Tang Xiaoxi glared at him and chuckled, you're quite optimistic. Chu Chu smiled subconsciously. He could not see the arrogance and hatred of young people in Lin Muyu, but he saw more gentleness and motivation. This was also one of the reasons why Chu Chu admired Lin Muyu. Perhaps it was because this kid's alchemy skills were really good? Not long ago, Chu Chu tied his horse to a withered tree at the side and carefully pulled out the sword on his waist. It was a red long sword, which was quite similar to his personality. Although Chu Chu had entered the Saint Realm, he still had a fiery temper. Moreover, his martial soul was the fire cauldron, so he was born with the fire attribute. This was also the reason why Tang Xiaoxi's grandfather asked Tang Xiaoxi to follow Chu Chu to train. The three of them slowly came to the foot of a mountain and found a big hole between the rocks. The surrounding rocks were even burnt black. Chu Chu bent down and used his hand to smear the soil on the ground. He sniffed it and said, the last time it passed by here was about 2 days and 2 nights ago. Could it be in its nest? Tang Xiaoxi asked. Chu, do you know what kind of beast is in this hole? Chu Chu looked at the trail of flames on the ground and said, "It's a crawling creature, but it seems like a part of its body is moving along the ground, like a snake. What is this?" Saying so, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi and said, "You two wait for me outside, don't go in with me. This beast seems to be in a deep sleep, and it's definitely a beast spirit over 5,000 years old. With your strength, you won't be able to help much." Lin Muyu nodded, and Tang Xiaoxi didn't act willfully either. She stood guard outside with Chu Chu. Chu Chu held his sword and entered the cave alone. After waiting for a full 5 minutes, there was no movement at all. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said, "Grandpa, Chu Chu couldn't have been eaten by a spirit beast, right? It's been so long." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "It shouldn't be, he's a holy venerable." Just as she finished speaking, a violent tremor came from inside the cave. Then, they heard Chu Chu's voice coming from inside the cave, "Run, it's a 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon." Fire flood dragon? Tang Xiaoxi's mouth was wide open. She didn't understand. She had never heard of a spirit beast like the fire flood dragon. Lin Muyu knew it wasn't as simple as it seemed. She quickly grabbed Tang Xiaoxi's hand and used falling star steps to rush to the side of the stone hill. There was a burning sensation behind them. Roar! With a deafening roar, a giant creature chased after Chu Chu out of the cave. It was indeed a fire flood dragon. It was a creature with the head of a horse and the body of a snake. It had 5 claws, but its body moved on the ground. Its body was covered in thick scales, but these scales were wrapped in raging flames. With a roar, it spat out a mouthful of flames at Chu Chu. Damn, a fire flood dragon. Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. A 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon was around level 87. It was a bit weaker than Chu Chu, but not by much. Moreover, it was a spirit beast that had cultivated for close to 10,000 years. Its bestial nature was enough to close the gap. Chu Chu didn't dare to be careless. He suddenly stopped and with his sword in hand, he let out a low roar. The fire cauldron came out of his body and condensed into a giant shield in front of him. This was his martial soul's ability. Flames shot out and the surrounding grass was quickly ignited. This place was about to become a sea of fire. The fire flood dragon roared and suddenly pounced forward, crazily swinging its claws at the fire cauldron. Peng, peng, peng. After a series of attacks, Chu Chu found it extremely difficult to defend. His face began to pale and cold sweat dripped down. He clenched his teeth and decided to go all out. Peng! Lightning appeared on the blade of his sword. With a low roar, Chu Chu activated the cyan rock armor. His figure flashed past the fire flood dragon's chest like lightning. Kacha! It was the lightning strike. The fire flood dragon's front leg was immediately cut off. The lightning strike separation ability was very powerful. At this time, Chu Chu used the lightning strike to show Lin Muyu how powerful this simple move could be. Lin Muyu was naturally dumbstruck. She understood the strength of a 9,000-year-old spirit beast. The scales of the fire flood dragon were extremely hard, but Chu Chu had actually cut off one of its legs with a single slash. Ho! Under the pain, the fire flood dragon could no longer stand straight. It opened its jaws and bit down on Chu Chu. Chu Chu's aura soared. With a loud roar, the fire cauldron suddenly expanded and began to spin rapidly. With a peng sound, the fire flood dragon's head was blown away. Then, Chu Chu's left fist slashed out, sending out a demon sound fist. Peng! The fire flood dragon fell to the ground with an anguished howl. But it still didn't die. Its giant tail swept out like a sharp whip. Chu Chu raised his right arm and the fire cauldron emerged from his body again. He used the walls of the cauldron to block the fire flood dragon's attack. With a loud explosion, cracks appeared on the fire cauldron, but the fire flood dragon was in an even worse state. Its entire tail was a bloody mess. Woo! Chu Chu gave a pitiful cough. His martial spirit and body were one, so if the fire cauldron was injured, it was the same as him being injured. Blood dripped down from the corners of his mouth. In order to kill this fire flood dragon, he had also taken quite a bit of damage. The fire flood dragon roared. Its powerful vitality allowed it to continue raising its sharp claws and pouncing towards Chu Chu. Chu Chu retreated again and again. He wanted to use the demon sound fist to attack this wild beast's vitals. Otherwise, even if he killed the fire flood dragon, he would only have half a life left. At this time, Lin Muyu couldn't stand it anymore. With a low shout, the azure gourd emerged from her body. With a thought, the azure gourd martial spirit flew out. Gourd vines broke out from the ground. This was the twisting roots skill. With a rustling sound, the vines wrapped around the fire flood dragon's injured leg. However, the fire flood dragon was too strong. With a roar, it struggled to break the gourd vines. Lin Muyu felt pain all over her body. Her martial spirit had been injured. Although the gourd vines were very tough, they were nothing compared to the strength of a 9,000-year-old spirit beast. However, this bought Chu Chu a few seconds. When the fire flood dragon turned around, Chu Chu had already exploded with a demon sound fist. A sharp whistling sound came from the air. With a loud pang, the fire flood dragon's eyeball was directly blasted open. Chu Chu was in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. He lifted his sword and flashed like lightning, sending out 3 lightning strikes in a row. Ka ka ka, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. In the next moment, the fire flood dragon's giant head flew to the ground. Blood spurted everywhere. This 9,000-year-old spirit beast was killed just like that. Great! Tang Xiaoxi cheered with a smile. Chu Chu wiped the sweat off his forehead and nodded towards Lin Muyu. He then said, "Princess Shi, hurry up and absorb the fire flood dragon's beast spirit. Stop when you've absorbed enough. Otherwise, your body won't be able to bear it." Tang Xiaoxi nodded. She sat cross-legged beside the fire flood dragon's corpse and released her fire fox martial soul. The fire fox squeaked loudly and greedily absorbed the fire flood dragon's spirit energy. Balls of flames enshrouded Tang Xiaoxi and the fire fox, making it almost impossible to see them clearly. This process lasted for nearly an hour. Suddenly, Tang Xiaoxi let out a miserable cry and fainted on the ground. Wisps of flames flew out from her mouth. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu was greatly alarmed. Chu Chu's face was even paler and his entire body was trembling. What would happen if something happened to Tang Xiaoxi? She was Duke Zhonglan's only granddaughter, the true pearl of his palm. If something happened to her, his life would be in danger. The fire flood dragon's beast soul is too strong. Xiaoxi has absorbed too much of it and her body can't take it anymore. She needs to cool down with cold water. Quick! Chu Chu suddenly lay on the ground and listened to the pulse of the earth. He then flipped himself up and said, "Lin Muyu, use your footwork to carry Princess Shi 5 miles south. There's a lake there. Quick!" Lin Muyu hurriedly bent down and carried Tang Xiaoxi. However, the moment she carried her, she felt as if she was hugging a piece of burning charcoal. Use your martial soul to resist the heat. Let's go. Lin Muyu hurriedly summoned the green gourd. As expected, the small gourd could reduce a lot of the heat. However, it was still very unbearable. She activated the star steps and dashed towards the lake in the south. Chu Chu's running speed was slightly slower. He shouted, "When we reach the lake, carry her and jump into the lake. Take off her clothes. Quick, don't hesitate." Lin Muyu's mind went blank. Did such a good thing happen to her today? However, she didn't have time to think about it. Tang Xiaoxi's life was at stake. No matter what would happen between them in the future, the most important thing now was not to let her die. Soon, the lake appeared in front of them. Lin Muyu leaped and fell into the lake with Tang Xiaoxi. Pfft! Like a fireball falling into the water, Tang Xiaoxi's clothes were quickly taken off. Soon, the beautiful princess appeared in Lin Muyu's arms naked. She was in extreme pain and subconsciously extended her arms to hug Lin Muyu's neck. She could feel the coldness from Lin Muyu's martial soul. That was what she needed. Water vapor rose from the surroundings and it was almost impossible to see what was happening. At this moment, Lin Muyu was in even more pain. The beautiful princess was in her arms and she could even feel her proud breasts pressing against her chest. The feeling was indescribable. Oh no, I've fallen. Chapter 21. The raging fire force gushed out from Tang Xiaoxi's body, and Lin Muyu could only rely on his martial soul to neutralize the force. However, the fire force of the 10,000-year fire dragon was so strong that it could not be neutralized by a mere green gourd. The fire force quickly raged in the lake, and with a sizzling sound, the lake water continuously evaporated. In the blink of an eye, the entire lake seemed to be boiling. Woo! Tang Xiaoxi woke up from her coma with a moan, but she only felt that her internal organs were burning, and every cell in her body was on fire. She did not know that the beast spirit of the fire dragon would be so violent, and she did not expect that she would not listen to Chu Chu and absorb more of it would be fatal. At this time, when she opened her eyes, she only saw Lin Muyu hugging her with his eyes closed. The front of his chest was almost burnt black, and a faint layer of light from the green gourd martial soul enveloped him. If it was not for the green gourd, he would have been burned to death. Looking down at herself, she was naked. In an instant, Tang Xiaoxi's heart trembled, and her face turned red. However, when she looked up and saw Lin Muyu closing his eyes to neutralize the force, she could not help but feel touched. Just as she was about to say something, a wave of fire force rushed to her soul, and she fainted again in Lin Muyu's arms. Unknowingly, Chu Chu had already arrived at the lakeside. Seeing the young man and woman hugging each other in the lake, he did not stop them. Instead, he sighed in his heart, "This kind of fate, how can I obtain it?" After a while, Chu Chu said from afar, "Lin Muyu, hold on, the princess's life is already in your hands, you must hold on no matter what. This is also a kind of cultivation for you, and it can greatly enhance the strength of your martial soul, understand?" Lin Muyu did not speak, at this time, even if he did not want to hold on. He had no choice but to hold on, he was already tied with Tang Xiaoxi. The fire flood dragon's flame force was too vicious. In the blink of an eye, it surged 7 or 8 times. Gradually, the tip of the green gourd martial soul was burnt black. The martial soul and the cultivator were one. Lin Muyu felt a sweetness in her throat and a mouthful of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth to her chest. Her mind became blank and her spirit was about to collapse. "No, I can't give up like this." He gritted his teeth. How could he give in so easily? Enduring the damage to his martial soul, he continued to extract the excess fire dragon's spiritual power for Tang Xiaoxi. Nearly 2 hours had passed, and more than half of the water in the lake had evaporated. The water in the lake could only reach the ankles of Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi, but this did not stop them from releasing the fire force into the lake. Finally, Tang Xiaoxi let out a whimper and woke up once again. This time, she finally felt that the heat in her body was under control. She gently exerted her strength and the fire fox martial spirit also woke up from its deep slumber. It squeaked and lay on her shoulder. On the contrary, Lin Muyu groaned and finally couldn't support herself anymore. She knelt in the mud and spat out another mouthful of blood into the lake, dyeing the originally clear lake red. Tang Xiaoxi was embarrassed and anxious. The moment when Lin Muyu knelt down, his body almost fell along with her, and her cheeks slid down her delicate breasts. This kind of touch was something she had never experienced before. For a moment, her cheeks blushed, and she stood there staring blankly at Lin Muyu's cheeks resting on her lower abdomen. The more she looked, the redder her cheeks became. She did not know what to do, and only anxiously said, "Moo. Are you okay? Moo." In the distance, Chu Chu took out the luggage on the back of the horse, and with a hua sound, threw a piece of clothing over, and said loudly, "Princess, put on some clean clothes and bring Lin Muyu ashore. His martial soul is seriously injured." N. Tang Xiaoxi quickly put on an exquisite green cloak, and then carried Lin Muyu. She activated the power of her martial soul, and with a leap, she brought him to the dry shore. Lin Muyu was unconscious. After Tang Xiaoxi changed into a new set of clothes, she anxiously asked, "Chu, is he okay?" "It's all my fault. It's all my fault, otherwise he wouldn't be like this." She was so anxious that she was about to cry. Chu glanced at Tang Xiaoxi, and he secretly calculated in his heart. Tang Xiaoxi's identity was simply too illustrious. She was the granddaughter of the Duke of Tsanglan, one of the two founding fathers of the empire, and she was fully deserving of being the apple of his eye. Logically speaking, Lin Muyu was merely a commoner, and for a commoner to die for a noble like Tang Xiaoxi, wasn't it reasonable? Right now, Tang Xiaoxi looked like she was about to cry. Could it be that she had feelings for this fellow? Chu didn't dare to continue thinking about it. It wasn't a beautiful thing for a noble lady to fall in love with a poor fellow, and the ending was usually a tragedy. Chu didn't wish for Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi to end up like this. Rather than that, he might as well cut off their ties now. "Princess Shi," Chu gently said, "we've been out for long enough, and Lin Muyu is also heavily injured. His martial soul contains a lot of the fire energy of the fire dragons, and we can't expel it. His cultivation can be considered crippled as well, so let's bring him back to Cathaya City and give him some gold as compensation. What do you think?" Tang Xiaoxi was stunned, and she stared at Chu in shock. Biting her red lips, she called out his name in a stern voice, "Chu." "Princess." Chu hurriedly knelt on one knee. There was a difference in status, and he understood his own identity and position. "I order you, you must save Lin Muyu, or I will absolutely not return to the imperial capital with you." "Yes." Chu sighed inwardly, knowing that he couldn't be the bad guy who severed his ties with Lin Muyu. "Fine, I'll save him then. In any case, Lin Muyu's injuries had something to do with me. Lin Muyu's green gourd only has one layer, so there's a limit to how strong it is. He's almost crippled by the flames, and even if he's saved, he can't use his martial soul anymore. There's nothing we can do, unless..." Chu was at a loss. Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips, and her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. "Unless what?" Chu continued, "Unless we can obtain the beast spirit of a water-type spirit beast that's at least 5,000 years old, and use water to control the fire. Only then will we be able to cure his green gourd martial soul. But water-type spirit beasts over 5,000 years old don't run around everywhere, so it's easier said than done to find them. If we were in Lanyan City, we might be able to easily find such a spirit beast in the dragon-seeking forest, but this is the Seven Stars Forest, and the types of spirit beasts here are far inferior to those in the dragon-seeking forest. Then what should we do?" Tang Xiaoxi slowly knelt beside Lin Muyu's body, and she couldn't help but burst into tears as she recalled how Lin Muyu hugged her to remove the flame force desperately. At this moment, the sun was setting, and the tide of the lake was rising. Chu suddenly stared at the lake in a daze. "Chu, what's wrong?" Tang Xiaoxi asked softly. Chu clapped his hands, and said, "Princess, Lin Muyu can be saved." "Ah." Tang Xiaoxi stood up abruptly, and her face was filled with joy. She smiled as if she had just escaped from a desperate situation, and said, "Tell me, Chu, what's going on? Have you thought of a way to save him?" Chu nodded, and pointed at the lake that was slowly rising, and said, "The tide in the lake area usually won't rise so quickly, and there's a strong smell of medicine in the lake. It's the smell of the rainbow lotus. If I'm not mistaken, there's a very old giant beast living in the lake, the black tortoise." "Black tortoise?" "Yes, the black tortoise is a magical underwater creature that can swallow clouds and spit out mist. It's said that a black tortoise over 2,000 years old has swallowed a huge amount of water and compressed it into its body. Since the tide can rise, it means that there must be something abnormal at the bottom of the lake, and there's the smell of the rainbow lotus in the lake. As far as I know, the black tortoise's favorite food is the rainbow lotus, and this smell must come from the black tortoise's feces. Since the tide is rising, the black tortoise must have discharged its feces when it was defecating. Tang Xiaoxi was flabbergasted. At this moment, Lin Muyu's body twitched slightly, and she woke up from her coma. She sniffed her nose and said, "What's this smell? Is it the rainbow lotus? I haven't smelled it for a long time." Chu Chu chuckled, "Kid, you're lucky. Don't move around and wait here. I'll be kind today and lure the black tortoise out for you. You and Princess Shi stay here, I'll kill this black tortoise." Lin Muyu quickly thanked him, even though she didn't know why he wanted to kill the black tortoise. In the next moment, Chu Chu activated his martial soul, and the fire cauldron came out of his body with a buzz. With a stride, it rushed into the depths of the lake and was submerged by the lake water. After a full 10 minutes, there was still no movement. Lin Muyu stood up and circulated the true qi in her body, but she found that the true qi was flowing smoothly. However, the green gourd marshal's soul seemed to be heavily damaged, and her meridians were also injured. A wave of heat that could kill was rampaging in her meridians, but there seemed to be another force suppressing the spiritual power of the fire flood dragon. Otherwise, her weak body would have been burned long ago. Why is it taking so long? Tang Xiaoxi was a little anxious. Just as she finished speaking, a wave of water suddenly rushed into the sky. No, it was a water arrow. Chu Chu flew out of the water with the fire cauldron in his hand. With a loud roar, he turned around and punched the water. A giant beast chased after him from the water. It was indeed a giant tortoise, and it was an extremely ferocious giant tortoise. Its body was extremely sturdy, and the radius of its shell was at least 20 meters. As it swam, it created waves of water, and its momentum was astonishing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tang Xiaoxi counted as she opened her small mouth and said, 6 golden tortoise shells. Wow, this is a black tortoise that's at least 6,000 years old. Moo, your luck is really good. After killing the black tortoise, you can refine its beast spirit. Lin Muyu nodded her head and said, N. Very quickly, the black tortoise was lured to the land by Chu Chu. It roared like a super tank, but the water arrow attacks were all blocked by the fire cauldron. After all, there was a great disparity in strength. In the blink of an eye, it was tortured to the point of death. In the end, it was directly killed by Chu Chu's heavenly lightning strike. Quick, Lin Muyu, use your martial spirit to absorb this black tortoise's beast spirit. Lin Muyu used the falling star steps and rushed over. She only felt a burst of dizziness and her body was too weak. She sat down cross-legged beside the black tortoise and began to refine the black tortoise's precious beast spirit. Chapter 22. The black tortoise was one of the overlords under the water, and it had cultivated in the depths of the lake for more than 6,200 years. It had already mastered spirituality. Only Chu Chu, a master of the sanctuary, could subdue it when he came here today. Moreover, the black tortoise's fate was not very good. If Tang Xiaoxi had not absorbed too much spiritual qi from the fire flood dragon and evaporated half of the lake water, the black tortoise would not have been discovered by Chu Chu. As soon as the green gourd marshal's soul touched the cold and soft beast spirit of the black tortoise, it absorbed the spiritual qi crazily as if it was a good rain after a drought. Lin Muyu sat there with her eyes closed, but her whole body was trembling. Although her eyes were closed, waves of air had been generated in the bottom of her heart. She could even look inside her dantian, only to find that her dantian had been burned dry by the fire flood dragon. The vines that grew out of the martial soul gourd had been burned to a mess and were crazily absorbing the spiritual qi of the black tortoise. The scorched black vines of the gourd also gradually returned to the original green color, as if they were healing themselves quickly. Lin Muyu was amazed. It was amazing that she could see the martial soul gourd with her eyes closed. After absorbing for nearly 20 minutes, the burns on the green gourd had basically healed, and the branches and leaves seemed more luxuriant. Lin Muyu also felt that the injuries in her meridians and bones had all been healed. An invisible force was surging in the green gourd, and it seemed that it would not be satisfied until it was released. Was it going to break through? Lin Muyu secretly rejoiced and called in the bottom of her heart, "Lulu, are you still there?" "Brother, I'm here." In Yi, the beautiful figure of the elf female official Lulu appeared. She flapped her transparent wings and appeared in front of Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, "Brother, are you refining this gourd again?" "Yeah, can you help me see what materials I need to advance to the next level?" Lulu opened her small mouth and looked at the huge body of the black tortoise outside. She said, "Wow, it's a 1,000-year-old black tortoise. Brother, this is a top-grade refining material. There's a scarlet shell in the center of the black tortoise's shell, which is the most precious part of the black tortoise's body. It's called the fire armor. Although this fire armor isn't big, it contains the black tortoise's thousands of years of cultivation. Brother, take this fire armor out and put it into the refining cauldron." Lin Muyu slowly opened her eyes and said to Tang Xiaoxi, "Princess Shi, please do me a favor." Tang Xiaoxi was a little embarrassed. She turned her face away and was afraid to look Lin Muyu in the eyes. It seemed that after facing Lin Muyu naked, it was difficult for her to face him. She said softly, "Say it." In the middle of the black tortoise's shell, there's a fiery red shell. Can you dig it out with a knife and give it to me? Sure. Although Tang Xiaoxi didn't know what he wanted to do, she knew that Lin Muyu saved her life not long ago, so she had to help him. The fire armor was the most precious part of the black tortoise. Because the black tortoise belonged to the water attribute, it was cold, but the spiritual energy it absorbed contained both water and fire. Therefore, the black tortoise refined all the spiritual energy of the fire on its shell and formed the fire armor. The spirituality of this fire armor was far better than that of the other shells. This was also the reason why the fire armor was so precious. Originally, he planned to take it back to practice, but he did not expect that this boy was so knowledgeable. Well, he had already stepped into the sanctuary realm, so there was no need to compete with the younger generation. A few minutes later, Tang Xiaoxi jumped off the back of the black tortoise with a huge shell about 1 meter in diameter, drenched in sweat. She handed it to Lin Muyu and said, "Mu, what do you want this for?" Lin Muyu smiled mysteriously, "Refine it. I'll have to trouble Princess and Chu Chu to protect me for a while." Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi couldn't see the refining cauldron. All they could see was a faint glowing energy. Lin Muyu just threw the fire armor out. Suddenly, the energy fluctuated violently. He had begun to refine it. This time, he didn't need other materials. The energy of the fire armor alone was enough for the green gourd marshal's soul to make a breakthrough. The fire armor in the refining cauldron slowly became smaller, turning into pure fire power and seeping into the green gourd. This process lasted for about 30 minutes. When Lin Muyu stood up from the ground, his temperament and expression seemed to have changed greatly. Even Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but say, You seem to be different." Chu Chu saw through it and smiled. He has broken through the second hurdle of the human realm and stepped into the third hurdle. Now his strength should be at level 27. Of course, he is different. Ah, so fast? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. I'm just, Chu Chu said, "Princess, you have absorbed too much of the fire dragon spirit energy, but it is also a blessing in disguise. Your strength has already stepped into the 36th level of the War Master. Congratulations, to be able to step into the first level of the Earth realm at the age of less than 20 is considered rare in the Empire." Tang Xiaoxi was secretly happy. Lin Muyu said, "Chu, I was actually able to close my eyes and see the appearance of the green gourd. What's going on?" Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh, "Because you have broken through to the third hurdle of the human realm. The most obvious improvement for a cultivator at the third hurdle of the human realm is the ability to look inside. You actually don't understand such a simple thing." "Oh right, Princess Shi, when your fire fox absorbed the fire dragon spirit energy, did you refine the fire dragon skill? No. Tang Xiaoxi shook her head in disappointment. Where's Kid Lin? Chu Chu asked again. I think so. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Huh? Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi were both shocked. Quickly show us. Yes. At this moment, Lin Muyu felt that his entire body was filled with powerful energy, and he had to spit it out. After a low shout, the green gourd came out of his body, and with a wave of his hand, a gigantic gourd appeared in front of him in a defensive arc. He activated his skill, and with a wang sound, a scorching flame quickly spat out, and actually condensed into a fiery red-black tortoise shell in front of the gourd. Black tortoise shell, Chu Chu was secretly shocked, and said, although your green gourd is only a 10th rank martial spirit, it has broken through twice and refined 2 martial spirit skills, it is truly rare. Xiao Shi, use your fire fox to test the defense of Lin Muyu's black tortoise shell. Can I? Mu? Tang Xiaoxi asked carefully. After all, she was already in the first layer of the earth realm, 1 level higher than her opponent, and the fire fox was a 2nd rank martial spirit, which was much stronger than the green gourd. It would be bad if she accidentally hurt her opponent. Lin Muyu was just about to test the defense of the black tortoise shell, so he nodded happily. Come on, princess. Tang Xiaoxi was also a little excited, and with a wang sound, flame surrounded her, and the fire fox came out of her body, and with a shrill sound, it hit the wall of the gourd released from Lin Muyu's palm. Bang! The fire fox was of the fire attribute, but so was the black tortoise shell. Under the attack, Lin Muyu retreated a few steps, and the blood in her chest was surging. Good heavens, although Tang Xiaoxi looked like a delicate and beautiful girl, her real strength was really strong. This attack almost numbed my arm, and it seemed that she did not use her full strength, otherwise I would not feel good. Tang Xiaoxi was also stunned. At least 80% of the fire fox's strength was used in this attack, and she thought that it could penetrate the black tortoise shell, so she could quickly withdraw her strength and not hurt Lin Muyu. However, Tang Xiaoxi did not expect that after the attack of the fire fox, the black tortoise shell was not damaged at all. Although Lin Muyu was repelled, it was only because of her advantage in the power of fire, and it did not mean that the fire fox had defeated the green gourd. This made her a little sad. She was born in the famous Tang family of Qihai City, and she had comprehended the fire fox martial soul at a young age. None of the elder brothers in the family had comprehended the fire fox, except for her. This was also one of the reasons why her grandfather loved her so much. The fire fox was the symbol of the family, and also the symbol of power. But now, her 2nd grade martial soul could only be tied with Lin Muyu's 10th grade martial soul. This was a big blow to the competitive Tang Xiaoxi. However, looking at Lin Muyu's frowning face, Tang Xiaoxi could not be cruel. Instead, she felt that she might have hurt him, and felt a little guilty. She put away the fire fox and asked, Mu, are you okay? Her question made Lin Muyu feel embarrassed. She shook her head and said, I'm fine. The attack of the fire fox was too shocking for green gourd, and my arm is a little numb. Tang Xiaoxi smiled happily. That's good. I was afraid that I would hurt you. Chu Chu said from the side, this kid's cultivation is not low, and green gourd has refined the black tortoise shell. She is already a defense-type martial soul, so it won't be easy for you to hurt him. Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue. I didn't want to hurt him. Lin Muyu smiled silently. It was already dark outside. Chu Chu looked at the sky and said, we probably won't be able to leave tonight. Since Princess She has broken through to the 1st level of the Earth realm, this old man's mission is considered complete. We'll spend the night in the open and return to Silver Fir City at full speed tomorrow morning. All right. They set up a campfire. They had planned to bake some buns, but Tang Xiaoxi felt that she was sick of eating too many buns, so she took out a pot from her backpack and decided to make some meat soup. It was already late and it was impossible to hunt rabbits, so they could only gather meat on the spot. They dug out a large piece of meat from the black tortoise and another piece from the fire dragon. The 2 types of meat were incompatible, so it was a novelty to cook them together. Moreover, Chu Chu often slept in the wild, so he actually brought salt and seasonings. Lin Muyu gathered some wild vegetables and threw them into the pot to cook. Not long after, a thick fragrance spread from the bottom of the mountain. After entering the Seven Stars forest, Tang Xiaoxi hadn't eaten anything delicious. Now that she could finally eat to her heart's content, Lin Muyu ate a lot as well. The more energy he absorbed, the more he needed to replenish himself. When night fell, Tang Xiaoxi fell asleep again. She lay on her side with her back facing Lin Muyu. This beautiful princess could sleep much more than Lin Muyu and Chu Chu, so it was no wonder that she was so slender and elegant. If she could stay up all day like Chu Chu, then she would definitely look like him, with her skin as rough as tree bark. Lin Muyu didn't sleep. After practicing thunderstrike and flying daggers for a few hours, she went into the depths of the lake alone. This kid, Chu Chu, narrowed his eyes and opened his domain. After sensing that there were no threats in the surroundings, he followed, only to find that Lin Muyu had dived into the depths of the lake. A few minutes later, she surfaced with a cluster of fragrant lotus flowers in her arms. Under the moonlight, these lotuses glowed with color and were exceptionally enchanting. Chapter 23. Dripping wet, Lin Muyu walked to the fire and placed the lotus on the ground. Chu Chu couldn't help but ask, "This is the seven-colored lotus, right? What are you going to do with it?" "Refine medicine," Lin Muyu lightly said. "Lin Muyu, do you really not understand, or are you pretending not to understand?" Chu Chu asked. "What's wrong?" This time, it was Lin Muyu's turn to be confused. Chu Chu sat up and said, "The seven-colored lotus is a level 7 medicinal herb. It emits a delicate fragrance and is slightly poisonous. People who consume it will hallucinate. Moreover, the seven-colored lotus is very rare. Some nobles like to use the powder of the seven-colored lotus to make medicine for a short period of pleasure. This herb has long been listed as a forbidden medicine by the Empire's spiritual medicine department. Only the military doctors have the right to use the seven-colored lotus to relieve the pain of the injured. You actually dare to use it to refine medicine? There's such a thing?" Lin Muyu thought for a moment and shook her head. "It's okay. As long as you don't tell anyone, no one will report me." As he spoke, he looked at Tang Xiaoxi, who was in a deep sleep. This beautiful little princess would definitely not tell on him. Chu Chu stared at this brat and said, "What do you want to refine with the seven-colored lotus?" "As far as I know, the seven-colored lotus cannot be used with other medicinal herbs to refine medicine. The recipe for the seven-colored lotus has been lost for thousands of years." Dream of the extreme. Just these 4 simple words were enough to shock Chu Chu. Dream of the extreme, this was a long-lost phrase because the recipe for this medicine had long been forgotten by the world. The last person who had the ability to refine dream of the extreme was an alchemy god, but he had passed away thousands of years ago. Dream of the extreme was a rare medicine. It was listed as a level 7 medicine by the spiritual medicine department. Legend has it that this medicine could greatly stimulate a person's potential. After drinking the medicine, the person would fall into a deep sleep for at least 3 days and 3 nights. After waking up, the person's cultivation would increase greatly. It was even said that a person with a heavens handicap physique comprehended a martial spirit after sleeping for 4 days after drinking dream of the extreme. For cultivators, dream of returning to the peak was something they yearned for even in their dreams. "Do you really know the formula for dream of the zenith?" Chu Chu looked at the young man in front of him in disbelief. Lin Muyu smiled. "What do you think? Otherwise, I would have drowned. Do you think I picked these seven-colored lotuses just to play with you?" As he spoke, he looked around and asked, "Are there any skeleton trees nearby?" Skeleton tree, one of the level 6 medicinal herbs. It was said that it would only grow on the bones of animals. Its attribute was extremely cold, and it was usually used in medicine to refine the flame energy in the human body. Chu Chu nodded. "When I came here, there was a skeleton tree about 5 miles away. But your cultivation is so weak, you might not be able to come back alive. You have to understand, spirit beasts over 1,000 years old have the ability to kill you. Lin Muyu chuckled. So, don't tell me you want me to help you pick the skeleton tree? What do you think? Dream on. Chu Chu folded his arms and collapsed on the rock. He was extremely cold and arrogant. The strength and arrogance of a sanctuary powerhouse was indeed daunting. In this world, I'm probably the only one who knows the formula for Dream of the Zenith. Do you want to be the second one? Even the royal apothecary will look at you differently. Lin Muyu's voice was very soft. Chu Chu's body trembled slightly, and he struggled with himself for less than a second before he turned around and dashed into the distance as if he was flying. Protect Princess Shi well. I'll be back soon. The sanctuary expert was very fast. In less than 10 minutes, he was back with a pale white sapling in his hands. With an eagerly attentive look on his face, he smiled and said, I've brought it back. You have to teach me how to refine Reverie Extreme Peak. Lin Muyu smiled secretly, but she said sternly, the method to refine Dream of the Zenith is a top secret. I won't tell ordinary people, so there's a condition if you want to learn it. What condition? Teach me the green rock armor and the demonic sonic punch. Brat, you want to learn both of them? You're too arrogant. Chu Chu raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu was a bit sad. She said indifferently, Dream of the Zenith is a lost art, forget it, deal. Chu Chu was really an old man who couldn't resist temptation. Of course, this was only in terms of alchemy. If he wasn't so obsessed with alchemy, he probably wouldn't have become good friends with Chu Feng. Therefore, Lin Muyu taught Chu Chu step by step how to use the essence condensing hand to extract the medicinal essence from the skeleton tree. This process was extremely exquisite and complicated. She taught him more than 10 times before Chu Chu finally understood it. Refining the medicinal essence of the 7-colored lotus was relatively easy. As for refining medicine, it was even more complicated. The 2 medicinal essences had to be repeatedly fed with fire to remove the impurities. After that, he had to use the essence condensing hand to promote the fusion of the 2 medicinal essences. After more than 3 hours, Lin Muyu had refined a total of 5 bottles of Dream of the Zenith, and Chu Chu had refined 2 bottles. Chu Chu picked up one of the bottles refined by Lin Muyu and smelled it. He was stunned. 2nd grade Dream of the Zenith? Oh my god. Smell yours again. Lin Muyu smiled. Just like Hawkeye, Chu Chu was experienced. He could determine the quality of the medicine just by smelling it. He smelled the 2 bottles he refined and couldn't help but be extremely disappointed. 9th grade, it's not bad. At least this is the genuine Dream of the Zenith. Lin Muyu stuffed all 5 bottles of potions into her bag. Wait, Chu Chu looked at the 5 bottles of Dream of the Zenith in Lin Muyu's bag and said, Can you leave 1 bottle for the princess? She's at the golden age of cultivation, and a bottle of Dream of the Zenith is very important to her. I don't have any money for you. Name a price. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, Princess Shi, forget it, I'll give her a bottle. Okay, thank you. All right. Lin Muyu clapped her hands and said, I've already taught you everything about Dream of Returning Peak's medicine essence refinement, formula, and refining method. Now, it's time for you to fulfill your promise and teach me the green rock armor and demonic sonorous fist. Okay. Chu Chu was a man of his word. Under the moonlight, it wasn't difficult to teach him the formula of the green rock armor and the circulation method of the vital energy. He just needed to transform the vital energy in his body into a thick rock force, which could be considered as an upgraded version of the protective vital energy. Although the green rock armor was only a protective energy for Chu Chu, for Lin Muyu, using the green rock armor together with the black tortoise shell was not as simple as 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Instead, it was an exponential increase. With this extraordinary defense, he could challenge experts whose strength was higher than his. After more than an hour of practice, he could already condense a faint green rock force around his body. It was just that it was far from being as dense as Choo Choo's. What he needed to practice next was just mastery. At least for now, he could be considered to have made some progress. After learning the green rock armor, he continued to ask Choo Choo for guidance. Demonic Sound Fist was Lin Muyu's favorite unique skill. Since the first time Choo Choo used the Demonic Sound Fist, Lin Muyu had fallen in love with this move. Through the pulsation of vital energy, he could affect the fluctuation of the air and form a sound wave to attack the opponent from a distance. It could shock the opponent's internal organs. What a cool unique skill. However, the more powerful the martial arts, the more difficult it was to learn. The basic ability of the Demonic Sound Fist was called wind beating. When a punch was made, it could form a pulse in the air. It required the speed of the punch to be close to the speed of sound. At the same time, it could stimulate the vital energy to push the fluctuation of the air. Just this alone, Lin Muyu practiced barehanded for at least 3 hours. He was sweating profusely. Finally, he mastered the skill of wind beating before dawn. Choo Choo watched Lin Muyu practicing. His heart was in turmoil. He had seen many geniuses in his life, but he had never seen a genius like Lin Muyu. This kid only used 3 hours to learn the skill of wind beating. In order to master the skill of wind beating, he had practiced hard for 7 days and 7 nights. Did this mean that this kid's comprehension was 10 times better than his? Choo Choo was a little hesitant. He didn't even know what kind of terrifying person he was teaching. However, from the moment they met, Choo Choo seemed to have a vague feeling that Lin Muyu was hiding something. But he was definitely not a bad person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risked his life to save Tang Xiaoxi. Even though Tang Xiaoxi possessed a beauty that could cause the downfall of cities and countries, and those princes and dukes in the imperial capital had all claimed that they were willing to sacrifice their lives for Tang Xiaoxi, but if that moment really came, it was likely that all of them would shrink back. After all, when it came to things like beauties, lechers only wanted to possess them, not to protect them. After learning the wind technique, Lin Muyu began to teach Choo Choo the chant of the demonic noise fist. What shocked Choo Choo again was that the chant was so long that Lin Muyu could memorize it by heart after reading it 3 times. Looking at Choo Choo's dumbfounded expression, Lin Muyu also laughed in his heart. It was just memorizing a chant of 1,000 words. This was all a small matter. Thinking back to when he was learning shorthand, it was truly domineering. Moreover, the first prize that he had won in various competitions since he was young wasn't just for show. Top student, gaming king, super rich second generation, this was his identity. Speaking of which, the Lamborghini that he ordered should have returned from abroad, right? He didn't know if his brother and father would accept it for him. Now that he was in this strange world, he didn't know how to return. The only thing he could do was to live on. Looking up at the starry sky, Lin Muyu felt lost. However, when he looked down, the faint morning light shone on Tang Xiaoxi's peaceful face. It seemed that he could find something here. Everything that he had would eventually disappear like smoke. Who knew what tomorrow would bring? When the true dawn arrived, Lin Muyu finally grasped the basics of the demonic noise fist. At the very least, she could hit a tree 10 meters away and cause it to tremble slightly. Although the damage it dealt didn't seem like much, the power of the demonic noise fist would gradually show itself as her cultivation increased. Most importantly, any random battle technique in Silver Fir City could be sold for several Jin coins, and there was no lack of inferior or deceptive battle techniques. The Thunderstrike Slash, Cyan Rock Armor, and Demonic Noise Fist that she learned from Choo Choo were all genuine high-rank battle techniques. Most importantly, they were free. Chapter 24. They set out early in the morning, but they still hadn't made it out of 7 Stars Forest by sunset. However, they were already 50 kilometers away from Silver Fir City, so they decided to travel at night. Moreover, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation had improved so much that Choo Choo wasn't worried about encountering spirit beasts that were too strong. Even if he didn't take action himself, the spirit beasts on the outskirts of Seven Stars Forest could be taken care of by the two juniors. Along the way, Lin Muyu had been silently practicing the demon sonorous fist on horseback. He would either circulate his energy, catch his breath, or punch at the trees in the distance. He did not waste any time along the way. The speed and strength of every punch of the demon sonorous fist grew stronger and stronger. Naturally, the power was also increasing. Seeing this, Chu Chu secretly praised Lin Muyu in his heart. This kid was indeed a rare genius. To be able to master the Thunderstrike Slash, Green Rock Armor, and Demon Sonorous Fist in such a short period of time, how powerful would he be in the future? They arrived at Silver Fir City late at night. When the three of them arrived at the city gates, a guard dressed in red robes had already walked up to restrain Tang Xiaoxi's mount. He smiled respectfully. "Congratulations on your success, Princess Shi. You've broken through the human realm and stepped into the first level of the earth realm." Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. "Thank you. Let's enter the city and stay at the courier house tonight. We'll depart tomorrow morning and return to the imperial capital. I haven't been back in a long time." "Yes." The guard raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and said in surprise, "This kid looks very familiar." Lin Muyu said, "I'm a worker at 100 Spirits Medicine Shop." "I see. You must be that Lin Muyu who refined a first-grade medicine." "Yes." "Ha." The guard laughed dryly for some reason and said, "Tomorrow is the day when the younger generation of Cathaya City's alchemy world will fight for the pardon writ. The young city lord, Hua Wan, is determined to win it, but since you've returned tonight, I'm sure there will be an exciting fight tomorrow. Princess Shi, would you like to watch?" Tang Xiaoxi couldn't resist the temptation and looked back at Chu Chu. Chu Chu smiled helplessly. "Fine, fine. We'll leave after watching the fight tomorrow morning. Plus, Princess Shi is the envoy this time. She should be the one to personally issue the pardon." "Yes, thank you, Chu." And so, Tang Xiaoxi seemed to be purposely avoiding him. After Lin Muyu sent Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Chu back to the courier house, he rode back to 100 Spirits Medicine Shop. When he pushed open the door, he saw Chu Yao standing under a tree in the distance, lights swirling around her. She was cultivating her martial soul, the Purple Marten. The Purple Marten was very cute and was very similar to Tang Xiaoxi's martial soul, the Red Fox, but it was much weaker. The Red Fox was a second-grade martial soul, while the Purple Marten was a fifth-grade martial soul. It was the difference between a commoner's martial soul and a noble's. "Sister Chu Yao." Lin Muyu called out softly. Immediately, Chu Yao opened her beautiful eyes and jumped forward in joy, hugging him with open arms. You've returned safely." "Humph, senior brother Wang Ying said that you might not be able to return." "Quickly, let me see." She intimately pulled Lin Muyu's arm and looked at him. He seemed to have become stronger, and the flow of true qi on the surface of his body was also much more vigorous than before. The biggest change was the expression in his eyes. Confidence and calmness showed that his strength had increased. "Sister Chu Yao, I have a martial soul." Lin Muyu smiled. Chu Yao said excitedly, "Oh, what kind of martial soul?" Lin Muyu muttered softly, and immediately, the azure gourd came out of his body. He said with some embarrassment, "Azure gourd, a 10th grade martial soul, but it's still very easy to cultivate." "Oh." Chu Yao hurriedly comforted him, "It's okay, a 10th grade martial soul is still a martial soul. It will help your cultivation progress. It's good, it's good. At most, I'll represent 100 Spirits Medicine Shop in the competition for the special pardon order tomorrow. In any case, I've already cultivated to rank 21. Wow, Sister Chu Yao's cultivation speed is quite fast. I remember that you just broke through rank 19 to rank 20 last time." "That's right." Chu Yao stuck out her full chest and said with a confident smile, "I'm currently the person with the highest cultivation in the entire 100 Spirits Medicine Shop. Do you think I can beat Hua Wan?" "It's a bit difficult." Lin Muyu touched his nose and said honestly. Chu Yao smiled and lightly patted his shoulder, saying, Can't you have a bit of confidence in your senior sister? Alright, you must be starving since you came back so late. I'll go make you something to eat. Yesterday, I went into the mountains to gather herbs and caught 2 wild rabbits. I left half for you. Humph, that glutton Luo Kai, if it wasn't for me, he would definitely eat the other half. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Her heart felt warm. She didn't know when, but she actually felt like she had returned home. The night passed quickly. Chu Feng, Wang Ying, Luo Kai, and the others all came to see Lin Muyu when they heard that she had returned. Chu Yao was the last to leave Lin Muyu's room. As soon as Chu Yao left, Lin Muyu immediately sat cross-legged on the bed to cultivate the true qi within her body. In this world, the levels of strength were measured by the intensity of one's strength. The more vigorous and pure one's true qi was, the higher one's level of strength would be. She couldn't slack off. The next morning, Chu Yao knocked on the door early in the morning. After breakfast, all the disciples of the 100 Spirits Medicine shop went to the venue for the special pardon writ contest. Chu Feng also followed. Ever since Chu Yao had broken through to the 2nd level of the human realm, he had placed great expectations on this granddaughter of his. Perhaps Chu Yao would be able to emerge victorious in this contest? Silver Fir City was known as the alchemy capital of the empire. There had once been 2 alchemy god-level masters in Silver Fir City, but that was a matter of several thousand years ago. Even so, the citizens of Silver Fir City were still diligently pursuing the art of alchemy. The younger generation also wanted to diligently practice alchemy and reclaim the glory of their ancestors. The arena was set up in the drill ground of the city lord's mansion. According to the laws of the empire, every city lord had the right to train a certain number of prefecture soldiers. During non-war times, the prefecture soldiers would be used to eliminate bandits, and during times of war, they would have to join the imperial army. The city lord of Silver Fir City, Hua Tian, had trained a total of nearly 2,000 prefecture soldiers. This was already the limit of this small city with a population of 50,000. The drill ground wasn't big, but it was already overcrowded with citizens who had come to watch the contest. As for the nobles within the city, they had been arranged to sit in the prominent stands. Lin Muyu looked into the distance. As expected, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Chu were both sitting in the master's seats with Hua Tian. The format of the contest was very simple. Challenge. Moreover, only the top 10 alchemy halls of the medicinal ceremony had the right to send someone to challenge. The young city lord, Hua Wan, was holding a thin sword and wearing a white robe as he stood on the arena. He was the recipient of the special pardon order from the previous medicinal ceremony, and this time, he was the arena lord. His face was filled with pride as he looked at the crowd below the arena. The corner of his mouth rose as he smiled and said, "This junior is Hua Wan, and I am fortunate enough to be the holder of the special pardon order from the previous medicinal ceremony. I am here to welcome the challenges of the young alchemists. Whoever can defeat me will be able to take away the special pardon order from my hands." As soon as he finished speaking, a young man in blue clothes jumped onto the arena with an iron sword in hand. His body was light, and it seemed that his cultivation wasn't low. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Sir Hua, I am Dong Luan of the Azure Sky Medicine Shop. Please enlighten me." Hua Wan smiled, "So it's Dong Luan. Come." He put his hands behind his back and actually carried his sword on his back. He waved his left hand lightly, and a silver shield of air appeared in his palm. He dared to fight his opponent without using a weapon? Luo Kai was shocked. Isn't this young city lord a little too arrogant? He's challenging Dong Luan barehanded? I heard that Dong Luan is already a rank 24 battle spirit. Wang Ying sneered, "Don't you see the air shield in Hua Wan's left hand? He can already condense an air shield. This means that he's already broken through rank 29 and stepped into the 1st level of the Earth realm." What? Luo Kai couldn't help but click his tongue. What a terrifying Hua Wan. Who in the younger generation of Kathaya City can be his match? On the arena, Dong Luan had already made his move. With a shout, the image of a golden arrow appeared on his blade and shot forward. Wang Ying immediately cried out in surprise. Grade 8 Martial Spirit, Cloud-Piercing Arrow. The speed of the cloud-piercing arrow was very fast, but it was not faster than Hua Wan's speed. The chi shield in his left palm abruptly met the cloud-piercing arrow, forcibly smashing it into pieces. Hua Wan's palms had already been trained to the point where they were almost impervious to swords and spears. Just like that, he used his bare hands to block the opponent's iron sword. With a keng sound, sparks splashed out. Then, with one hand, he used his middle finger to clamp down on Dong Luan's iron sword. Hua! Under the collision of air currents, Dong Luan's cultivation was far inferior to his opponent's. He was pushed back repeatedly, but Hua Wan didn't show any mercy and stabbed the broken sword into Dong Luan's shoulder. Blood splattered everywhere as Dong Luan retreated a dozen steps. He fell to one knee and panted heavily, I lost. In just a single exchange, Dong Luan had lost. Hua Wan's tyrannical aura was so overwhelming that Wang Ying, Luo Kai, and the other 100 spirits apothecary disciples were all dumbfounded. They almost didn't dare to breathe too loudly. To them, Hua Wan was an expert that they couldn't challenge, an existence that they couldn't even look at. Chu Yao bit her lip, her shoulders trembling slightly. Perhaps it was because of Hua Wan's strength, or perhaps because he was too cruel. Sister Chu Yao, are you all right? Lin Muyu asked in concern. I'm fine. Hua Wan was too ruthless. Yeah, in the end, a few people who went up to challenge Hua Wan all failed. One of them had his arm pierced, and another had his leg broken by Hua Wan's Thunderhammer martial spirit. In any case, none of the losers came out unscathed. This seemed to make Hua Wan, who was on the stage, even more proud. He had already regarded this battle for the Special Pardon Order as an enjoyment. On the side, a mercenary wearing broken armor raised the corner of his mouth and sneered, I heard that City Lord Hua Tian spent a lot of money to buy a 3,000-year-old Thunder Spirit Stone from a wandering merchant 2 days ago. It seems that the young City Lord has already refined the power of the Spirit Stone. Otherwise, how could he have broken through to the first layer of the Earth Realm, level 33, so quickly? When he said level 33, Lin Muyu clearly saw a trace of surprise flash across Chu Yao's face. The disparity was too great. Chu Yao was level 21, but Hua Wan was already level 33. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.